Chapter 45-94. Tang Tailin never thought that Yang Yuxuan was the one who did it. Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin didn't know that the current Yang Yuxuan was no longer the Yang Yuxuan of the past. The main reason was that Yang Yuxuan didn't appear in public at all, so they didn't pay attention to her. Tang Guo lived a peaceful life for a while until Meng Shi brought Wen Ran to her and said that she wanted to help Wen Ran study hard every day. Tang Guo was energized again. Very good. Tang Guo looked at Yuanzhou, who was beside Wen Ran. He was indeed handsome and gentle, slightly shorter than Wen Ran. According to Meng Shi's introduction, this was Wen Ran's good brother. They had gone through life and death together. Meng Shi didn't date Wen Ran. They were still good friends at the moment. Because of some of their experiences, Meng Shi was considered special in Wen Ran's eyes. Now, Meng Shi planned to encourage Wen Ran to study. Wen Ran was now the school bully of this school. Not many people dared to provoke him. Meng Shi suddenly approached him. Many people didn't dare to provoke Meng Shi. This time, Meng Shi's status really rose, especially those brothers under Wen Ran. Because of Wen Ran's attitude, all of them were very friendly to Meng Shi. Tang Guo didn't have any reaction. Meng Shi originally wanted Tang Guo to help tutor Wen Ran, but seeing Tang Guo's cold appearance, he didn't dare to speak again. However, he still told Wen Ran that if there was anything he didn't understand, he could ask Tang Guo. Although Wen Ran was older than Meng Shi, he was a repeat student. Naturally, An Yuan could only repeat a year with him. Originally, Tang Guo's group was made up of 3 people. Now that Wen Ran and An Yuan were added, it became a group of 5 people. Wen Ran didn't like Tang Guo very much. He felt that she was too arrogant and his attitude towards Meng Shi wasn't good. However, because of Meng Shi's face, he didn't show his attitude. Meng Shi also realized that the two of them didn't get along. In addition, she didn't want Tang Guo and Wen Ran to get too close. Xia Fan, who had returned from the competition, was in a bad mood when he saw the 2 extra boys. He glanced at Wen Ran indifferently. Wen Ran knew Xia Fan, and Xia Fan knew Wen Ran. Wen Ran did not expect Xia Fan to be so close to Tang Guo. It was said that the young master of the Xia family was not close to anyone. He rarely paid attention to these things, so he was not sure about the details. However, he didn't pay too much attention to this. Xia Fan was relieved to find that Wen Ran was hostile to Tang Guo. However, he still didn't like Wen Ran. Recently, Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin did not come to look for Tang Guo. After school in the afternoon, Tang Guo and Xia Fan went home together, while Meng Shi went home with Wen Ran and An Yuan on a bicycle. It seemed that they were getting more and more intimate, but something was still missing. Zhang Xingyue didn't pay much attention to these things. She studied hard every day because this was her way out. Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin didn't dare to look for Tang Guo anymore, but they still kept in touch with Meng Shi. Occasionally, they would even invite Meng Shi to eat at a restaurant. Tang Tailin's restaurant was indeed not bad. Meng Shi even recommended it to Wen Ran. Later on, Wen Ran often brought others to eat there. After a few times, they became familiar with each other. Meng Shi would often tell Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin about Tang Guo's recent situation. One day, she suddenly asked why the 2 of them didn't wait for Tang Guo at the school gate. Jiang Juxiang's expression changed slightly. After a long time, she said, Guoguo's mother doesn't like it. Meng Shi immediately imagined that the 2 of them were threatened by a powerful young lady. She sympathized with them even more. The Peak. Chapter 45-95. Of course, Jiang Juxiang didn't dare to say that it was because of what had happened in the past. It was impossible for them to reconcile with Yang Yuxuan. If Yang Yuxuan really didn't care about their old relationship and exposed those videos, Tang Tailin would lose face again. Tang Tailin was also a little upset about this matter. Yang Yuxuan's email also reminded him of Wen Lang. He hadn't contacted Wen Lang for many years. Both sides had their own reasons for not contacting each other. Wen Lang was busy trying to have more say in the company, and Tang Tailin didn't dare to pester him because of Jiang Juxiang. However, Meng Shi didn't know about these things. Instead, she thought that Yang Yuxuan was a little too much. No matter what, Jiang Juxiang was Tang Guo's grandmother, and Tang Tailin was Tang Guo's father. Even if the court awarded Tang Guo to Yang Yuxuan had no right to stop them from meeting. She suddenly felt that Tang Guo's understanding of Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin might be a little different because of Yang Yuxuan. Tang Guo didn't know about Meng Shi's imagination. If she knew, she would definitely want to blow her head off. When they left the restaurant, Meng Shi was still talking to Wen Ran about this matter. She looked very indignant. Wen Ran, can you help? I feel that Grandma Jiang and Uncle Tang are really pitiful. Tang Guo has a weak relationship with them. It should be because of her mother's influence. Wen Ran frowned. What do you want to do? I just want to find a way to let Tang Guo get close to Grandma Jiang and Uncle Tang. They are all good people. I want to let Tang Guo see the truth and not be influenced by her mother's subjective opinion. Wen Ran, can you think of any way? Wen Ran shook her head. I don't know. He still didn't understand his own family relationship. How could he solve other people's family problems? If it were someone else who said this to him, he wouldn't have bothered. He had never liked to meddle in other people's business. Fortunately, the person who said this was Meng Shi. Otherwise, he wouldn't have listened. Perhaps he had a filter for Meng Shi. No matter what she said or did, Wen Ran was very patient. He even thought that she was a little cute. Sigh, can't you think of a way? You're so smart. Meng Shi sighed. Now, I can't even bring this up to Tang Guo. If I do, she'll break off all ties with me. It wasn't unreasonable for Meng Shi to say that Wen Ran was smart. After she helped Wen Ran with her cram classes, Wen Ran's grades, which were originally at the bottom, were now hovering around the middle. If he continued to make up for it, he might be able to enter the top 10. They were only in the second year of junior high school. Although the end of the semester was approaching, there was still a year and a half before high school. While Wen Ran was thinking about it, and Yuan, who had been pretending to be invisible, said, since Tang Guo doesn't want you to talk about this, you might as well not bother about it. After all, this is her family's business. As an outsider, you might not know a lot about it. Wen Ran was pulled back to reality by An Yuan's voice and nodded in agreement. And Yuan is right. Since Tang Guo doesn't want you to get involved in this matter, then forget it. Actually, he didn't like Tang Guo very much. Or rather, he didn't like any of the young ladies in the circle. This was all thanks to his biological mother, who was a typical rich young lady. For as long as he could remember things, he didn't have a good impression of his biological mother. That's because Tang Guo was influenced by her mother. That's why she doesn't like Grandma Jiang and Uncle Tang. I believe that when she gets to know them better, she won't be as distant as she is now. When An Yuan heard this, he almost burst out laughing. How could an outsider like you know better than she does? Peek. Chapter 45-96. Although Wen Ran didn't agree to meddle in Tang Guo's affairs, he didn't stop Meng Shi from meddling. Meng Shi was different from the other girls he knew. He liked people who were unpretentious and lively. Meng Shi racked her brains and thought of all kinds of ideas, but she couldn't come up with a good one for the time being. She tried to mention Jiang Juxiang in front of Tang Guo, but Tang Guo's expression immediately changed and she didn't dare to mention it again. Until Jiang Juxiang was hospitalized, it wasn't a serious illness. She just slipped and fell in a restaurant. Old people couldn't fall, and it was easy for them to be hospitalized. Meng Shi felt that the opportunity had come. During lunch, she fiddled with her phone and mentioned Jiang Juxiang's hospitalization to Tang Guo. Tang Guo put down her bowl and chopsticks. Xia Fan saw that she didn't eat much. Her appetite had been spoiled and she probably wouldn't eat anymore. Her face looked as if someone owed her millions, but now it seemed that the debt had risen to tens of millions. When Ran immediately sensed Xia Fan's hostility towards Meng Shi and stopped eating. He even moved closer to Meng Shi, afraid that she would be taken advantage of. Zhang Xingyue also stopped eating. She felt that Meng Shi's understanding of some things wasn't very good. Tang Guo had clearly told her not to mention these things several times, but she insisted. She felt that their friendship would end sooner or later. In Zhang Xingyue's opinion, Meng Shi wasn't a tactful person. She didn't want to have more interactions with Meng Shi and had become much colder recently. Meng Shi was speechless for a moment, but when she thought of how pitiful Jiang Juxiang was, she braced herself and said, "She fell. No matter what misunderstanding there is, why don't you go and have a look first? Her injuries will heal faster. Meng Shi, since you value her so much, you can acknowledge her as your grandmother. I won't stop you." Tang Guo stood up and turned to leave. Meng Shi was a little flustered. She called Tang Guo twice, but Tang Guo didn't respond. In fact, the classmates more or less knew that Meng Shi wanted to help Tang Guo ease the relationship between her grandmother and father. Many people felt that Meng Shi was a little nosy. After Tang Guo left, Xia Fan naturally left as well. Zhang Xingyue was almost done eating. She quickly took 2 bites and left as well. However, she still left a word of advice to Meng Shi. If you care about Tang Guo as a friend, I think it's best not to mention this matter again. After that, she hurriedly chased after Tang Guo and left. She still had a lot of homework to do. She had to do most of it and strive to be admitted to the high school of this school with excellent results. She wanted to get a high scholarship so that she could reduce the burden of her grandmother. Meng Shi sat in his original seat, feeling very helpless and aggrieved. I just feel that Grandma Jiang is really pitiful. No matter what misunderstanding there is, now that she has fallen, going to take a look can comfort her loving heart. And Yuan was speechless. There was something wrong with Meng Shi's brain. In fact, he also knew that if he didn't know how to invite outsiders, even outsiders who knew about it, would feel that there was nothing wrong with Meng Shi's statement. After all, in this world, the weak were more likely to arouse sympathy. The main thing was that they had never felt pain for themselves. Many people didn't feel pain for themselves and could even show their kindness. It's fine if she doesn't want to. When Ran comforted Meng Shi. Don't mention this in the future. She might even blame you. Meng Shi quickly shook his head. I really want them to reconcile. I don't mean anything else. Okay, I know. Let's eat. Since it's useless, don't worry about it. Meng Shi felt a little sorry for Grandma Jiang. She had previously vowed that she would definitely bring Tang Guo over. The Apex. Chapter 4597. On this day, Tang Guo still didn't talk to Meng Shi. The reason why she didn't cut ties with Meng Shi directly was that the main event hadn't come yet. She was very patient. In the car, Xia Fan was holding a pile of snacks. All of them were unsealed. He watched Tang Guo stuffing them into her mouth. You have to eat your fill. Now you know you're hungry. You can be angry, but your body is yours. Tang Guo paused and glanced at Xia Fan. Auntie Yu is right. You're like a nagging old man. Not many people know you're like this, right? If they do, you can forget about your character. Xia Fan said, good advice is unpleasant to the ear. If you think Meng Shi is troublesome, don't interact with her in the future. She always doesn't know her place and meddles in other people's business. Don't you feel annoyed? It's okay. Xia Fan didn't warn Meng Shi because he found that Tang Guo changed her face very quickly. For example, today in the cafeteria, after Meng Shi said those words, Tang Guo seemed to turn around and leave angrily. However, after taking 2 steps, her expression returned to normal, as if she had never been angry. This made him a little confused. Naturally, he didn't warn Meng Shi. He felt that Tang Guo seemed to be following some procedure. This feeling also made him feel very strange. Won't she affect you? Tang Guo shook her head. No, don't worry. Who am I? Will I be affected? Xia Fan thought of how Tang Guo could learn anything at a glance and felt a headache coming on. This little girl was too smart and a little bad. She wasn't easy to coax. Those 2 people didn't come to you again. No, I was warned by my mother some time ago. The restaurant was also cleaned. I'm very busy. Xia Fan knew that Yang Yuxuan and Tang Guo were not to be trifled with, so they would never do anything secretly. If they really wanted to do something, he would definitely tell Tang Guo. At present, it seemed that Yang Yuxuan could deal with it alone. There was no need for him at all. It seemed that he could only help Tang Guo carry snacks and a small mirror. This was okay. At least he was of some use. System, what a miserable young man. Do you know whose son Wen Ran is? Xia Fan paid attention to Wen Ran and even made a copy of his information. Then, he accidentally found out that Wen Ran's father was the person who pestered Tang Tailin's father. After the incident with Tang Tailin, not many people knew that the other man was Wen Ran. Yu Yu was Yang Yuxuan's close friend. Few people knew about it. At that time, he was still young and had seen Wen Lang's photos. If he hadn't noticed Wen Ran, he wouldn't have remembered these things. Who is it? Tang Guo naturally knew. Xia Fan wasn't sure if she knew, but he still answered, Wen Lang. Wen Lang is the one who was pestering Tang Tailin. Xia Fan knew that Tang Guo didn't care about these things for a long time. Besides, they are all smart people, not ordinary children. Their psychological endurance is definitely not comparable to ordinary people. So that's how it is. Tang Guo smiled, making Xia Fan feel cold. He always felt that she knew. But Tang Guo was already eating her snack seriously, so he didn't say anything. The final exam is coming soon. Xia Fan tried to find a topic. Tang Guo thought of Zhang Xingyue. She felt that this girl was very hardworking and planned to tutor her. After that day, Meng Shi didn't mention Jiang Juxiang in front of Tang Guo again. Jiang Juxiang was really disappointed in the hospital. Meng Shi felt that she was very pitiful and felt a little guilty. For several days, he dragged Wen Ran to see Jiang Juxiang. Unknowingly, the final exam came. The final exam results were announced. Without any surprises, Tang Guo was definitely first in the grade. Chapter 4598. Surprisingly, Zhang Xingyue climbed from the top 5 of the class to 2nd place and 5th place in the grade. This was a happy thing for Zhang Xingyue. For this, she thanked Tang Guo fiercely and even took 2 pieces of old bacon from home for Tang Guo. Tang Guo accepted it happily. This thing was delicious. She liked it. It's nothing much. Thank you for helping me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to get such good results. I like to eat this very much. It's just what I want to eat. Tang Guo handed the old bacon to Xia Fan. Let's go back and cook it later. Xia Fan stood beside Tang Guo. He was obviously a reserved and noble young man. However, he was carrying 2 pieces of old bacon at the school gate. No matter how one looked at it, he looked a little out of place. However, he still replied, "Okay." He glared at the old bacon in his hand. Although he was reluctant, he still accepted his fate and took it. It was just like when he and Tanghua sat on the seesaw when they were young, or when he was the only one who pushed her on the swing. Zhang Xingyue pursed her lips and smiled. "See you next semester." "I'm going back." The students watched in amazement as Xia Fan and Tang Guo got into a very expensive car with 2 pieces of cured meat. The corners of Xia Fan's mouth twitched. The sulky senior style was really different. Even if he carried the old bacon in his hand, it had its own style. "Actually, you can put it in the trunk. There's no need to carry it." When the car started, Tang Guo saw it and reminded him. Xia Fan, he was used to it. Usually, he was the one who carried Tang Guo's school bag and snacks into the car. Therefore, he forgot to put the bacon in the trunk. "You can take it if you like. I think you like it very much. Don't worry. I'll cook it when we get home." Xia Fan didn't know how she could tell that he was the one who was greedy. She was the one who was greedy. Forget it. Just take it that he was greedy. The holidays passed quickly, and it was time for school to start again. Tang Guo found that the relationship between Meng Shi and Wen Ran was obviously more ambiguous. She didn't know if it was because of his relationship with Wen Ran, but Meng Shi would sometimes be targeted. When Tang Guo encountered it, she would still help him out. Actually, she didn't need to do anything. As long as she appeared by Meng Shi's side, those people wouldn't dare to do anything. Meng Shi seemed to have forgotten that he didn't have a good time with Tang Guo. Now, she really didn't dare to mention Jiang Juxiang again. The key was that she couldn't think of a good way to make sure that Tang Guo wouldn't be angry. "Let's talk about this later." At most, she could replace Tang Guo to go to the restaurant often and visit Grandma Jiang and Uncle Tang more often. She could also reveal some information about Tang Guo's situation. That would be all right. In the 2nd semester of the 3rd year of junior high school, Meng Shi and Wen Ran broke through the last barrier and became a couple. Of course, the biggest thing they could do was to hold hands and so on. Wen Ran's grades had also improved greatly. Now, he could be considered a school bully and a top student. His grades were several points higher than Meng Shi's, making Meng Shi call him a monster. With Tang Guo's help, Zhang Xingyue was able to secure the 2nd place in the grade. Wen Ran was now 3rd in the grade. No matter how hard he tried, there was no way he could surpass Zhang Xingyue and Tang Guo. Tang Guo would help Zhang Xingyue whenever she was free. She was always thinking about the old cured meat in Zhang Xingyue's house. Meng Shi's grades were around the 5th and 6th grades. His grades were still good. Wen Ran would also bring Meng Shi to some gatherings in the circle. Many people knew that his girlfriend was Meng Shi. When Wen Ran was admitted to high school with excellent grades, Wen Ran's father, Wen Lang, finally decided to meet Meng Shi. Because of Meng Shi's appearance, Wen Ran completely changed. He thought that this girl was good. The Peak. Chapter 4599. Wen Lang was actually similar to Tang Tailin. When he was young, he thought that Wen Ran's appearance was just a task. After all, he had someone he liked in his heart. He was middle-aged, and the Wen Corporation would definitely need an heir in the future. Wen Ran almost went astray before, which still made him a little scared. If he was asked to have a child with another woman, he would not be willing to do so. Over the years, he had been fighting with the company's shareholders, and finally, the Wen Corporation was completely in his hands. He was no longer in the situation where the shareholders could affect him with a few words. Now, he needed to cultivate his son, and at the same time, find an opportunity to continue his relationship with Tang Tailin. It was a complete surprise that Wen Ran could be changed by Meng Shi. He liked Meng Shi very much. He felt that she was smart, cute, and could urge Wen Ran to improve himself. After meeting Meng Shi, he also approved of her. When Wen Ran knew that Wen Lang had met Meng Shi, he immediately went to find him. The relationship between the father and son was close to the freezing point, but because of Meng Shi, it seemed to have melted. After knowing that Wen Lang appreciated Meng Shi very much, Wen Ran was relieved that he had no intention of objecting to their relationship. However, Wen Lang also said, "But you are my son. It's easy for you to marry Meng Shi, but you don't have the ability to protect her for the time being. You should know that in this circle, you can't protect her if you don't have the ability, right? If you don't have the ability, your mother will be the first to stop this. She can use some means to make Meng Shi unable to survive in this circle. You can't marry her and let her stay at home and not socialize, right?" Wen Ran calmed down and felt that Wen Lang was right. At present, he was just a very ordinary freshman. After graduating from high school and entering university, he would not have the ability to protect Meng Shi at all. He knew his biological mother very well. She would definitely not look down on him because of Meng Shi's identity. She might even arrange a young lady of the same status for him. Seeing Wen Ran's anxiety, Wen Lang smiled. "There's still a long time before you can get married. It's not too late for you to work hard now. What should I do?" This was the first time Wen Ran spoke to Wen Lang calmly. Wen Lang was very satisfied. He did not object to Meng Shi and Wen Ran being together at all. As long as his son was outstanding enough, he could marry whoever he wanted. "In the future, you will go to the company to learn with me." Wen Ran, okay. He knew that this was his chance to gain the right to speak. He thought of An Yuan. "I'll bring An Yuan here." An Yuan was his good brother who had gone through thick and thin with him. Wen Ran would never forget him. "If we're together, he can still help me do a lot of things." "Of course." Wen Lang did not refuse. In fact, he had always been aware of Wen Ran's movements. And Yuan could be considered Wen Ran's confidant. If they could be trained together, they would be a great help to Wen Ran in the future. This was a good idea. This time, Wen Ran didn't hate Wen Lang as much. On the contrary, he was somewhat grateful. At least, Wen Lang was better than his mother. As Wen Ran and Wen Lang interacted with each other, the relationship between father and son eased, and they became much closer. Wen Ran went to the company and learned a lot. After the first year of high school started, he had changed a lot. When Tang Guo was in her first year of high school, Xia Fan took the college entrance examination. Xia Fan entered the examination hall with a long face and came out with a long face. Xia Fan's friends didn't think that he did badly in the exam. They guessed that he went to university after the college entrance examination and couldn't see Tang Guo often. When Xia Fan went to the university to register, Tang Guo even sent him off. "I'll come back to see you on the weekend." Xia Fan touched Tang Guo's head. There was a lot of reluctance in his eyes. He looked at the row of teenagers standing next to him. "I'll leave her to you guys to take care of." The group of teenagers was speechless. Why did their task always have to stay behind to help Tang Guo get food? Was this the flaw of being 2 years younger? Peak. Chapter 4600. Meng Shi hadn't mentioned Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin in front of Tang Guo for a long time, and she didn't help them persuade her. It was mainly because Tang Guo's attitude the previous few times really scared her. Although she didn't say it in front of Tang Guo, she still often told Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin about Tang Guo's situation. She, Wen Ran, and some of Wen Ran's friends basically went to Tang Tailin's restaurant for dinner every week. Jiang Juxiang, Tang Tailin, and Wen Ran were already very familiar with each other. By chance, Wen Lang reappeared in Tang Tailin's line of sight and found that Wen Ran, Meng Shi, and Tang Tailin were closer. Using this relationship, Wen Lang often appeared in front of Tang Tailin. However, Tang Tailin didn't seem to want to be entangled with him anymore. Two failed relationships still made Tang Tailin very uncomfortable. He didn't forget Wen Lang, but he didn't want to be entangled with him for the time being. Wen Lang didn't have any intention of giving up. He originally planned to continue his relationship with Tang Tailin when he had power in his hands. As for whether they were married or not, he didn't care so much because his legal wife, Su Yi, was even more open than him. Between them, they basically played their own game and didn't interfere with each other as long as it didn't hurt the interests of the two families. Another reason why Tang Tailin didn't want to be entangled with Wen Lang was that he knew that he couldn't be with Wen Lang openly. Even if people knew his identity, they would only look at him as if he was Wen Lang's lover and not husband and wife. Even if Wen Lang and Su Yi played their own game and didn't have feelings for each other, in terms of morality, he was a mistress, and his reputation wasn't very good. If the old lady at home found out, she would probably make a fuss again. Moreover, he still wanted to acknowledge Tang Gua as his daughter. If he continued to be entangled with Wen Lang, there was no need to think about it. Tang Gua would definitely not acknowledge him as her father. Wen Lang felt Tang Tailin's rejection and found an opportunity to talk to Tang Tailin alone. "Why are you running away?" Wen Lang asked Tang Tailin. Tang Tailin replied coldly, "So what if I don't run away? Hide in a place where we can't see the light of day and continue." These words indeed left Wen Lang somewhat speechless. "You know that I haven't forgotten you. I believe that you haven't forgotten me either." Tang Tailin was in a daze. "So what? Wen Lang, we're not young anymore. We can't afford to be tormented, and we don't have the heart to torment ourselves. If you want me to go back to the past and hide in a dark place with you and continue the relationship that could be abandoned at any time, I think there's really no need to torment yourself. Anyway, there won't be any results. We've been together for so many years. Do you think you can just give it up so easily?" Wen Lang was a little unwilling. Now that he was truly in control of the company, he could rest assured and be with the person he liked. There was also an excellent successor. No one would stop him from pursuing the person he liked. However, the result was different from what Wen Lang had expected. Tang Tailin didn't want to go through all that trouble. The main reason was that he felt that nothing good would come out of this if he continued to struggle. They were the ones who got together first, but in the end, he still had to bear the reputation of being a third party. He was actually a prideful person. He didn't want to waste his efforts again and again without any results. "Tailin, this time, I guarantee that we won't be separated again. I already have the ability to make others not dare to stop us. Trust me one more time." Vertex. Chapter 4601. Tang Tailin lit a cigarette and smoked silently. He said casually, "So what? I don't think it's important anymore. Wen Lang, you'd better go back and be president when. Don't come looking for me." Wen Lang wanted to say something, but Tang Tailin pushed him away. "The children are still outside. It's not good to be seen. Let's go out and eat. The dishes are cold." Wen Lang staggered from the push and failed to stop the resolute Tang Tailin. He didn't understand why their relationship, which used to be so passionate, suddenly became so distant and cold. Wen Lang couldn't help but kick the vase next to him. Fortunately, the vase was big and heavy, so he didn't kick it down. Wen Lang returned to the restaurant's private room. About a minute later, Meng Shi appeared at a corner. Her eyes were filled with shock and excitement. She really didn't expect Uncle Tang and Uncle Wen to have such a relationship. When the two of them stood together just now, they were really a match made in heaven. When she saw the two of them fighting, she almost stood up and asked them to stay together. Fortunately, she was still calm and felt that it was a little inappropriate for her to suddenly appear. After eavesdropping on their conversation, she thought that the two of them had each other. Most likely, they separated for various reasons. This made Meng Shi feel very regretful. She couldn't wait to think of a way to help the two of them solve their relationship problems. If they liked each other for a long time and couldn't be together, it would be a pity. They were really a good match when they stood together. When Meng Shi returned to the private room, she still couldn't control her emotions. When Ran noticed her situation and asked in a low voice, Meng Shi quickly shook her head. She felt that it was better not to make this matter public for the time being, so as not to make the two parties feel awkward. Meng Shi's grades were currently in the top 10 of the grade. In this high school, it was already very outstanding. Tang Guo also appreciated this point because Meng Shi wasn't like Zhang Xingyue, who read and memorized books all the time and spent most of her free time studying. To be able to achieve such results, she was really talented. Meng Shi was more serious in class. After class, she basically did her own things. He was a little similar to Wen Ran, but Wen Ran was better than him. Sometimes, he didn't even need to listen much in class. He just needed to flip through the books to get a good ranking. At least it was the standard for the male and female lead. It wouldn't be too bad. Perhaps the only person in the entire grade who was more relaxed than them was Tang Guo. During Meng Shi's leisure time after class, she would watch and play some games. She could be considered a little fujoshi. Unlike other fujoshis, she did not separate the paper men from the real world. Perhaps it was because she had too little life experience that she believed that the love between a man and a man in the real world was the same as the love between a man and a man in the paper men's world. When she was in the third year of junior high school, she started to be obsessed with the genre of LGBTQ, radio dramas, and anime. Until now, it has become more and more decadent. Sometimes, when she saw two handsome boys walking together with their arms around each other's shoulders, she would wonder if there was something going on between the two of them. Occasionally, she would secretly say to Tang Guo, "These two boys look so compatible." He would also say to Zhang Xingyue, "Do you think they look like a couple? Why do I feel that they are both gay?" Whenever two boys got close to each other, she would imagine a romance drama in her head. Vertex. Chapter 4602. When she was shopping, if she saw two real couples, she would be so excited that she would scream and talk to the people around her. Tang Guo's attitude had always been cold and indifferent. However, she would not criticize Meng Shi's hobby because she had her own motives. Zhang Xingyue was different. Every time she was seriously doing questions, Meng Shi would suddenly say something and really disturb her. Therefore, she would occasionally criticize Meng Shi rudely, saying that it was not good for Meng Shi to be like this. She was just fooling around and was not what Meng Shi thought at all. Her attitude was so obvious that she almost tied the two of them together and would cause trouble for them. Over time, Meng Shi knew that there was no point in discussing this with Zhang Xingyue. She felt that Zhang Xingyue was a little rigid. She only knew how to study every day and spent all her time on studying. In the end, her grades were sometimes not in the top 5 of the grade, although it was not to the extent of falling out of the top 10. However, because it was easier for her to stay in the top 10 of the grade, she took it for granted that studies should be balanced between work and rest. Like her, she studied while playing. Wen Ran was similar to her and had better grades than her. In any case, she did not agree with Zhang Xingyue's study method. She felt that she was too rigid. However, her relationship with Zhang Xingyue was not that good. She would occasionally say a few words, but Zhang Xingyue would not listen, so she stopped talking. As a result, her relationship with Zhang Xingyue was not as good as before. In fact, Zhang Xingyue could not wait. She felt that the most important time in the first year of high school was to build the foundation. She could not be happier if Meng Shi did not disturb her. She wasn't talented in her studies, so she didn't think that she could easily get good grades just by playing around. Since she was young, she knew that everyone was different. Everyone had their own way of studying. She was not smart. If she wanted to achieve her goal, she could only spend all her time on studying. She did not dare to relax at all because this was her only way out. She had envied others for being able to obtain excellent results so easily, but she had never complained, nor did she have any intention of relaxing. She met Tang Guo, who was willing to help her. Her grandmother said that she was a lucky person. She could not let this luck go to waste. She had to work hard for her future. She also felt that way. She did not care if others understood her or not. She was working hard for her future. Ever since he knew that Tang Tailin and Wen Lang had an unforgettable relationship, Meng Shi had paid special attention to this matter. Every time Wen Lang used the excuse of going to the restaurant to visit Tang Tailin, her heart felt like it was being scratched by a cat. At this time, Tang Guo decided to ease her relationship with Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin. During the class dinner, Meng Shi strongly recommended going to Tang Guo's restaurant. In fact, she had a selfish motive. She wanted to take this opportunity to let Jiang Juxiang and Tang Guo meet. Wen Ran naturally supported Meng Shi. With Wen Ran's support, many students also supported him. Therefore, the class dinner at the end of the first year of high school was set at Tang Tailin's restaurant. After the matter was settled, Meng Shi called Jiang Juxiang. Jiang Juxiang rushed to the restaurant and told Tang Tailin the news. Both of them were looking forward to seeing Tang Guo go to the restaurant. For the sake of Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin, she really won't let go of any chance. Tang Guo could no longer use words to describe what kind of person Meng Shi was. Vertex. Chapter 4603. On the day of the class gathering, Meng Shi stayed by Tang Guo's side the whole time. When they reached the restaurant, she paid special attention to Tang Guo's expression. When she found that there was no change in Tang Guo's expression, she heaved a sigh of relief. The class slowly walked into the restaurant. Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin stood in the most conspicuous place. Because they were classmates in the same class, they didn't ask for a private room. They booked the dining table in the hall. The students chose a table and sat down. When Jiang Juxiang looked at Tang Guo, her eyes couldn't help but turn red and she secretly wiped her tears. When Meng Shi saw Jiang Juxiang, she felt a lot of sympathy for her. This time, Tang Guo deliberately showed her sympathy. She glanced at Jiang Juxiang, who was wiping her tears, and then looked away. Meng Shi, who observed this scene, felt that the relationship between Jiang Juxiang and Tang Guo should be eased. When Zhang Xingyue saw Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin, she felt that the situation was a little strange. When she saw that Tang Guo didn't have any intention of losing her temper, she didn't say anything. She just diverted a little attention to Tang Guo. She was not very satisfied with Meng Shi. She had been wondering why Meng Shi was so enthusiastic about recommending a restaurant. Meng Shi's family conditions weren't very good, so it was impossible for her to eat at restaurants often. When she saw Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin, she understood. She felt that Tang Guo was quite cultured. If it were her, she might have turned around and left. However, she didn't say anything. Maybe the relationship between Tang Guo and Jiang Juxiang wasn't that bad. Every time Jiang Juxiang served the dishes, she would go to Tang Guo's side and put some delicious food in front of Tang Guo. Tang Guo looked at the dishes one by one. They really fit her taste. Meng Shi must have told Jiang Juxiang a lot about them. She still remembered that when she was young, Jiang Juxiang would scold her twice if she ate 2 more pieces of meat. Now she knew what she liked to eat. She also raised Yang Yuxuan like a pig. Every meal was very nutritious. In fact, it was not good for the body at all. It might even cause excessive obesity. For some things, as long as one paid a little attention, one would be able to know a person's preferences. Jiang Juxiang didn't try to understand Yang Yuxuan's preferences. She thought that as long as she ate good food, it was good for a pregnant woman. She even interrupted Yang Yuxuan and didn't let Yang Yuxuan eat what she liked. She was simply arrogant and didn't care about Yang Yuxuan. She felt that Yang Yuxuan was not good to her precious grandson because she ate less. It could be seen how selfish she was. Her selfishness was only for outsiders, like her daughter and son. She couldn't wait to give them the best. Even if she favored boys over girls, she actually treated her daughter well. Because she knew that it was impossible for her to have a grandson, she wanted to keep her bloodline. At the end of the day, it was just that her hopes had been dashed and she had chosen to give up. In fact, she did not really care about her granddaughter at all. The older generation was particular about having a descendant. Jiang Juxiang thought that even if she was a girl, she was very smart. It was impossible for Tang Tailin to get married and have children. She was the best choice, that was all. Eat more. Jiang Juxiang whispered to Tang Gua. Her face was full of anticipation and joy. Many students in the class knew that Jiang Juxiang and Tang Gua's grandmother, but they didn't know the specifics. This time, Tang Gua didn't disappoint Jiang Juxiang. Instead, she agreed. Okay. This time, Jiang Juxiang was so happy that she was about to cry. She even went to pull Tang Tailin. Tang Tailin also came over and poured a drink for Tang Gua. Tang Gua accepted it. The Peak. Chapter 4604. She heard that when Lang had been pestering Tang Tailin. She didn't know how long Tang Tailin could last. He should be able to understand how much she hated his past actions, right? System, host, you're so bad. Are you back from training your underlings? Yes. Those systems are really stupid. They're so stupid, but they even have serial numbers. It's really infuriating. Are you jealous that they have serial numbers again? I'm not happy. Why do those stupid systems have serial numbers? I don't know when the boss of the Spacetime Bureau will come back. There's still no news. Otherwise, he would definitely send me a serial number. The system said angrily, the Spacetime Bureau boss's signal has completely disappeared. I don't know which great universe he ran to. Did the Spacetime Bureau think of a way to find his whereabouts? They've already taken many measures. This time, they've created a batch of systems. They plan to send them to other great universes and great worlds to look for people. When there's news, they'll naturally send news back. These systems are really lucky. They just came out of the factory. They're like weak chickens, but they still have serial numbers. Tang Guo felt that the system's jealousy was about to overflow. Go find 111,222 to play games and vent your anger. It's easy to have problems if you're not happy. The system hummed and left. Tang Guo didn't need it for the time being. He wanted to play games and kill everyone. Because there was no serial number, he couldn't buy things from the system home. Fortunately, he had a group of underlings who would buy things for him. During this class meal, the relationship between Tang Gua and Jiang Juxiang improved. Meng Shi felt that there was a chance, so every time he went to a meal, he would ask Tang Gua to come. Seeing that Tang Gua didn't refuse, he was even happier. However, Tang Guo only went to eat and said a few words to Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin. She didn't want to go any further. The two of them were very patient and planned to take their time. Wen Lang didn't stay idle either. He looked for opportunities to appear in front of Tang Tailin, which made Tang Tailin waver. Yang Yuxuan knew about Tang Guo's movements and talked to her. "Guo, do you want to acknowledge your grandmother and father?" It would be a lie to say that she wasn't sad. Even though Yang Yuxuan had achieved a lot, she still couldn't forget those 6 years of darkness. If it weren't for her sensible daughter comforting her, she might have really chosen to jump out of the window. She still hated Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin. The harm they had caused her could never be erased in this lifetime. However, the two of them were Tang Guo's biological grandmother and biological father. If Tang Guo really wanted to acknowledge them, she couldn't stop her. She just felt a little sad. "Mom." Tang Guo grabbed Yang Yuxuan's hand. Of course, it was impossible for her to recognize the two people, but she had her own purpose. Yang Yuxuan was upset, but she still had to endure it and not say anything. She was indeed a good mother. If it were another person, they might not be able to endure it if their daughter did this. "Guo, don't worry. In terms of blood relations, they are indeed your grandmother and father. This is an inseparable fact. Mom doesn't blame you." Yang Yuxuan's eyes were red, but she still desperately held back. Tang Guo handed her a tissue. "Mom, what are you thinking about? How can I really acknowledge them?" Yang Yuxuan was stunned, and the tears in her eyes even forgot to fall. Tang Guo wiped her tears. "I have my own thoughts." "What thoughts?" "Recently, a man has been pestering Tang Tailin. I want to see how much he wants to acknowledge me as his daughter." Yang Yuxuan's depressed mood was swept away. "Is it Wen Lang?" She naturally knew that the person who pestered Tang Tailin back then was Wen Lang. "Yes. I don't know if that old lady can accept her son being entangled with that man again." Yang Yuxuan heard her daughter's casual tone and finally understood that her daughter had no intention of forgiving them at all. "Guo, I still don't want you to have too much hatred in your heart." Of course, she really didn't want her daughter to acknowledge those two people. They didn't really care about her daughter at all. "It's because they're too annoying," Tang Guo said. "They insist on coming to me. If Guo doesn't like them, I'll think of a way for you," Yang Yuxuan said domineeringly. "I can make them unable to survive in this place." The Apex. Chapter 4605. Tang Guo refused Yang Yuxuan's help and said that if she needed Yang Yuxuan's help in the future, she would not hesitate to ask. Yang Yuxuan also felt that the two of them were just a little noisy and not a big trouble. After all, they were related to Tang Guo by blood. If they were too ruthless, it would easily have a bad influence on Tang Guo. So, she listened to Tang Guo and did not intend to intervene. Yang Yuxuan was still worried. She arranged for people to keep an eye on Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin's movements. Seeing that they did not go to school to disturb Tang Guo, she left them alone. She was not interested in Tang Tailin and Wen Lang's affairs. Her current interest was to expand the company. Wen Lang and Tang Tailin had not made any progress, which made Meng Shi anxious. Tang Guo was often dragged by Meng Shi to Tang Tailin's restaurant for dinner. When they arrived at the restaurant, Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin would always be there. What was more coincidental was that Wen Lang was basically there. Wen Lang appeared in front of her openly as Wen Rant's father and did not hide his relationship with Tang Tailin at all. Of course, he was so obvious that Tang Guo would definitely not be nice to him. Wen Lang was disliked by Tang Guo and even gave him a bad look, which made Tang Tailin a little unhappy. Jiang Juxiang did not recognize that Wen Lang was the person in the video. At that time, the main focus was on Tang Tailin. She did not pay attention to that man at all. Even if she did, it had been more than 10 years since that incident. At that time, it was just a hurried glance. Now, she had already forgotten what he looked like. Wen Lang appeared as Wen Ran's father. Jiang Juxiang thought that he was trying to repair his relationship with Wen Ran. Because Meng Shi told her that Wen Ran and Wen Lang had some misunderstandings, and now their relationship was much better. Jiang Juxiang was not at the restaurant often. Only when Tang Guo was going to the restaurant for dinner, would Meng Shi inform her and she would rush over from home. The more she acted like this, the more Meng Shi thought that she was pitiful. Wen Lang seemed to be unable to bear it. Tang Tailin had always been so distant to him. He would talk to Tang Tailin whenever he had the chance. It's been so long. Why don't you try? Coincidentally, every time Wen Lang and Tang Tailin talked, there was a high chance that Meng Shi would bump into them, so she could only eavesdrop from the side. Every time the two of them talked, Tang Tailin would smoke. I told you, there's really no need. Is it because of your daughter? Wen Lang asked the question that came to his mind. She seems to have realized something. Her attitude towards me is not very good. I don't think she wants us to be together. That's part of it, Tang Tailin replied. In fact, the reason why he did not choose to be with Wen Lang was because of Tang Guo. I don't want to mess up my life anymore. My mother wants to be closer to her daughter now to make up for her childhood regrets. If I continue to pester you, she will definitely throw a tantrum and jump off a building. Other than my mother, I don't want to be entangled with you anymore. I feel like there's no point in being entangled with you. Back then, I mustered up the courage to tell my mother that I fell in love with a man and wanted to be with him. I had already planned to give up everything, leave this place, and fight with you. In the future, my mother would agree. Tang Tailin smiled. But I didn't expect that the first person to spread the news of marriage would be you. When I saw my mother throwing a tantrum, I didn't want to make a fuss, so I agreed to go on a blind date, get married, and have children. I did things that I hated and couldn't stand, but I had to do. The Apex. Chapter 4606. Wen Lang said, I'm sorry. It's all in the past. It's not that important. If I were in your position, I might have made the same choice. Tang Tailin looked relieved. So let's not pester each other. It's been more than 10 years since we last pestered each other. That time, we both had a lot of trouble. This means that we're not suitable for each other. It's different this time. I'm fully prepared. No one can break me up. Tailin, the people in the Wen Corporation don't dare to oppose me. I've already taken control of the Wen Corporation. As long as you agree, I can take you directly to the Wen Corporation. Tang Tailin paused. Why do you want to take me to the Wen Corporation? To announce to others that I'm your most important lover. Wen Lang wanted to say something, but Tang Tailin pushed him away. Don't say it. It's not good to be seen. Tang Tailin turned and left. Wen Lang didn't chase after him. He knew that unless Tang Tailin agreed, it was useless no matter what he said. He could be so patient because firstly, he let Tang Tailin down. Secondly, he knew that Tang Tailin still loved him. Thirdly, Tang Tailin didn't seem to want to find another lover. Wen Lang was about to leave when he bumped into Meng Shi. Both of them were a little embarrassed. Before Wen Lang said anything, Meng Shi said, Uncle Wen, I know why Uncle Tang doesn't want to agree. It sounds like you two like each other very much. There must be a lot of misunderstandings that you can't be together. Wen Lang had originally planned to leave. It was awkward to be bumped into. It was not something to be ashamed of. Hearing Meng Shi's words, he asked with interest, "Why? You two love each other so much." "The reason why Uncle Tang doesn't want to pester you is not because he doesn't like you. It's because he feels that there won't be a result if he continues to pester you." Wen Lang was puzzled. What result? What result can there be? Of course, it's the result of an open relationship. Uncle Tang compromised his family. He got married on a blind date and had a child. There was no love between the husband and wife. Uncle Wen likes Uncle Tang so much. I think it's the same. A family like yours is mostly a business marriage. It's impossible for there to be any love. I've heard Wen Ran talk about his mother before. He often sees different men around her. Forgive me for being disrespectful, but your marriage seems to be in name only. It seems that after completing Wen Ran's mission, you've gone your separate ways. Wen Lang was not angry. Perhaps it was because Meng Shi was able to bring his son back, so he had a filter for her. He didn't feel that her words were disrespectful. Instead, he thought that she was very bold and straightforward. Moreover, he also hoped that her words would be of some use to him. I accidentally overheard some words just now and found out that Uncle Wen is now in power. Meng Shi paused for a moment. Seeing that Wen Lang was not angry, he continued, "If Uncle Wen wants to be with Uncle Tang, you may have to sacrifice the current business marriage. Even if our country can't get a marriage certificate, we have to give him an open and above-board identity. Let everyone know that this is your lover, your one and only, not your lover." Wen Lang pondered for a moment before regaining his senses. Seeing Meng Shi's expectant look, he smiled and said, "You're right. Every time we try, there's no result. In the past, we couldn't get a result, but it's different now. I'll settle this matter and return to being single as soon as possible. By then, Talon probably won't reject me anymore." However, when Lang recalled how badly Tang Guo treated him, Tang Guo might object to this. "I'll need your help to persuade her." Vertex. Chapter 4607. That's not a problem. Tang Guo, I'll do the work. You both like each other. It's true love. No one can stop you from finding the person you like and being with the person you like, Meng Shi said quickly. As far as she knew, Tang Tailin had been single ever since he divorced Tang Guo's mother. He was already middle-aged. If he could find someone he liked to be with, Tang Guo would not object. As for Wen Ran, Meng Shi was not too worried about this. Wen Ran had long realized that the relationship between the two was not ordinary. Since she did not object, it meant that she acquiesced. After agreeing to this matter, Meng Shi thought of a way to persuade Tang Guo. She planned to ask Tang Guo indirectly why she was not satisfied with Wen Lang. Tang Guo said casually, "I don't like him. I feel uncomfortable just looking at him. Actually, Uncle Wen is quite a good person. Do you have any misunderstandings about him?" Meng Shi asked again. Tang Guo shook her head. "There's no misunderstanding. Because everything Wen Lang did was true, there was no misunderstanding." However, to Meng Shi, Tang Guo just did not have a good impression of Wen Lang. She did not hate him because he did something. Then, Meng Shi went straight to the point. "Have you noticed that there's something between Uncle Wen and Uncle Tang?" Tang Guo narrowed her eyes. Was she so impatient? "What's the situation?" "That's the situation." Meng Shi lowered his voice. "I accidentally overheard their conversation before. It turns out that they were lovers when they were in university. Later, they were forced to separate because of family pressure. After so many years, it can be considered fate to be able to meet again. Uncle Tang is now single. Uncle Wen and his wife also got married for business. They don't have any feelings for each other. It said that his wife often keeps young men as her mistress. Because of this, Ran doesn't like his mother very much. Now, Uncle Wen may be planning to end this partnership with his wife. He probably wants to be with Uncle Tang. Meng Shi sighed. After so many years, it was rare that they still had each other in their hearts. They were willing to work hard for the future. Her eyes were full of gratitude. When she came back to her senses, she realized that Tanggua's expression was very ugly. Tanggua, don't you want them to be together? Uncle Tang has been single for so long. Now that he's finally met someone he likes, it's not easy for him. Tanggua sneered, so, I have to support him with both hands and bless him. Meng Shi wanted to say that one shouldn't be so selfish. It wasn't easy for Tang Tailin and Wen Lang. But when she saw Tanggua sneer, she suddenly didn't dare to say it out loud. Forget it, forget it. Let's not talk about this. It's best that you don't mention this in front of me. How he is and who he wants to be with is none of my business. However, if you want my support and blessings, you're dreaming. Tanggua glanced at Meng Shi coldly. If they really want to be together, I will never go to that restaurant again. If you treat me as your friend, then don't interact with those two people in the future. Meng Shi looked at Tanggua's back in confusion. He didn't know what he had done wrong again. Tanggua's reason for getting angry was getting stranger and stranger. Zhang Xingyue was speechless when she heard the whole story. Meng Shi, do you really care about Tanggua as a friend? If you do, don't mention this in front of her in the future. Meng Shi felt wronged. I think Uncle Wen and Uncle Tang are a good match. Moreover, the adults' feelings for each other haven't disappeared after so many years. It's really not easy for them to be together again. I didn't expect Tanggua to be so disgusted. The Summit. Chapter 4608. Zhang Xingyue didn't say anything more. She admired Tanggua's good temper. She didn't fall out with Meng Shi after so many times. Tanggua really didn't go to the restaurant. Jiang Juxiang also asked Meng Shi what was going on. Meng Shi knew that Jiang Juxiang was very opposed to Tanggua liking men, so he didn't tell the truth. He just said that Tanggua was busy recently. Tang Tailin actually didn't care so much about Tanggua. Most of the time, it was Jiang Juxiang who took him to the restaurant. He felt that it was enough to maintain the current relationship. It was impossible for the father and daughter to be close, even if he really wanted to have a descendant. However, he couldn't be close to her. Wen Lang often sent him some small gifts recently, but he didn't come in person. Wen Lang said before that he had to deal with something and would come back to find him when he was done. Tang Tailin didn't care and still didn't throw away Wen Lang's small gifts. He heard the news of Wen Lang again. He saw it on the news that there was some turmoil in Wen Group and Su Group. The reason was that Wen Lang and Su Yi divorced. For this reason, Wen Group seemed to give up some of its interests. Tang Tailin was very shocked. His heart was pounding, and he felt that this shouldn't be Wen Lang's style. In fact, Wen Lang had long wanted to get rid of the relationship with Su Group. Now Su Group was no longer the Su Group of more than 10 years ago. Su Group had been going downhill for so many years. Not only could it not help Wen Group, but it also always dragged Wen Group down. This disconnection was something he had been planning for a long time. Su Group was really greedy. In the end, he bargained and sacrificed some power that he could afford. In this way, Wen Lang became single again very smoothly. When he came to Tang Tailin again, he felt much stronger. When Meng Shi knew about this, he couldn't help but be moved by the relationship between the two. Tang Tailin couldn't refuse Wen Lang, who divorced for him. The two of them went from vague ambiguity to entanglement now. The impulse when they were young appeared in them again. Their relationship began to become hot. Meng Shi was very happy to see the two of them together. Wen Ran didn't say anything. Instead, he worked harder to learn how to manage the company. From the incident between Wen Lang and Tang Tailin, he was inspired. If he wanted to live comfortably with the person he liked, he had to become powerful. After much persuasion, Meng Shi finally dragged Tang Gua to a restaurant for a meal. This time, she did not inform Jiang Juxiang because this meal was to celebrate Wen Lang and Tang Tailin. Tang Tailin and Wen Lang had told her not to tell Jiang Juxiang for the time being. She had always been against it. When Tang Gua appeared in the private room, she found Wen Lang and Tang Tailin sitting together. The two of them behaved rather intimately. At first, she didn't act up. When Wen Lang stood up and expressed that Meng Shi had played an important role in him getting back together with Tang Gua, Tang Gua's expression suddenly changed. Meng Shi was shocked when he saw it. Tang Gua looked at Wen Lang and Tang Tailin coldly. You two are officially together. Tang Tailin and Wen Lang looked at each other and replied, yes, I hope you can understand. You two are together. Why did you pull me over to celebrate? Do you want me to understand? Do you want me to support you and help you persuade the old lady? Tang Tailin and Wen Lang had this plan. As long as Tang Gua accepted them, with her help, Jiang Juxiang would be more likely to accept them. The Peak. Chapter 4609. Tang Gua was sitting closer to them. She picked up a drink and splashed it on their faces. Shameless. After saying that, she stood up. I won't come to this place again in the future. She glanced at Tang Tailin coldly. And I will never acknowledge you as my father. Tang Gua looked at Meng Shi again. And you, let's break off our friendship. You're not my friend anymore. The change happened too quickly. No one expected such a reaction. Tang Gua took out her phone and called the chauffeur as she walked, asking him to pick her up. Tang Tailin and Wen Lang's expressions were ugly. It was too embarrassing to be splashed with water in public. Tang Tailin's tone became sharper. What are you trying to do? Haven't your grandmother and I compromised enough for you already? Now you want to care who I'm with. Why are you doing this if you're not satisfied? Tang Gua stopped in her tracks. Seeing Tang Tailin's self-righteous look, she was so angry that she laughed. She walked back with a cold gaze. I really don't know if your conscience hurts when you say these words. No, you don't have a conscience, do you? Do you really think I don't know anything? When my mother went on a blind date with you, she didn't know that you had someone else in your heart, let alone that you were a man. You and the old lady hid the truth of this matter. I think any woman with a normal mind would not marry someone like you. After the marriage scam, you lied to my mother to have a child because you didn't want to stop the bloodline. Later, my mother gave birth to me. I was a girl, and the old lady despised me. She felt that I was at a disadvantage when I ate a piece of meat. Now that you can't have a grandson, you want to acknowledge me. And you treated my mother as a tool. You didn't accompany her for a prenatal checkup. In order not to meet her, you came home after midnight every day after she was pregnant. You've never bought me a toy, hugged me, or even talked to me. Even when you got married, you were avoiding it and put all the pressure on my mother. If this isn't a marriage scam, then what is? The second day after my mother was pregnant, wasn't it ridiculous? Because the old lady wanted a grandson, you endured the discomfort and got close to my mother. You got her pregnant, but in the end, you still didn't care. Years of stress, misfortune, and emotional abuse caused my mother to fall ill and almost die. When my mother was pregnant with my younger sister, you had an affair with this man. Someone even made a movie about it. Later, you two got divorced. Tang Guo's words made Tang Tailin feel embarrassed and speechless. He really didn't know that Tang Guo was so clear about these things. I have a good memory. Tang Guo added, now, you actually have the face to ask for my blessings in front of me. Scumbags who cheat in marriage, have some shame. You're not my father. My father died a long time ago. You. Tang Tailin was really angry. He reached out to hit Tang Guo. Tang Guo grabbed his hand and kicked his knee, tripping him to the ground. Tang Tailin cried out in pain. Seeing this, Wen Lang wanted to come over to help, but Tang Guo punched him. Wen Lang was punched in the face. Wen Ran saw the situation and also went to help. After all, Wen Lang was his father. Tang Guo turned around and glanced at him. It's best if you don't come over. This is a grudge between me and them. Wen Ran was stunned for a moment because what Tang Guo said just now was indeed that these two people were unreasonable. In that instant, Tang Guo had already tripped Wen Lang. The two men were beaten up by a little girl and lay on the ground screaming. Wen Ran reacted and realized that if he went up, the result would be the same. Meng Shi was shocked. He reacted and wanted to pull Tang Guo, but Tang Guo pushed him away. Get lost. Tang Guo looked at everyone's sorry state and found it very funny. She had been waiting impatiently for this day because these two people were too slow. She picked up a bottle of drink on the table and poured it all on their faces. Didn't you want blessings? I'll bless you now. Lock yourself up for the rest of your lives and don't harm others. Peek. Chapter 46:10. Wen Ran, help stop her. Meng Shi tugged at Wen Ran, looking flustered. He didn't know what to do. Wen Ran shook his head. From her point of view, there's nothing wrong with it. His parents had their own way of doing things. They should have already discussed it when they first got married. If his mother was like Tang Guo's mother, he would probably be angrier than Tang Guo. She didn't simply pour drinks on their heads. Instead, she smashed wine bottles on their heads. Smashed them to death. Wen Ran's reaction was a little out of Tang Guo's expectations. That's right. Now that she had made everything clear to everyone, everyone was very clear about it. Just listening to it made them feel very angry. Even Meng Shi felt that Tang Tailin had gone overboard with Yang Yuxuan. There was no way to clear his name. Moreover, because of her, many details had changed. It was impossible to be one-sided like in the original plot. First of all, she had saved Yang Yuxuan. Many people knew about the previous incident. The two of them couldn't refute it. Moreover, the original owner had lost her mother who loved her when she was young. She had been neglected by Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin for many years. She had long been mentally ill. Naturally, her personality wasn't that likable. It was clearly something that she was in the right, but because of her personality, she would do unreasonable things. Tang Guo poured 2 bottles of drinks and finally felt better. Seeing that Wen Ran didn't stop her and instead stopped Meng Shi who wanted to come over, she grabbed her bag and put it on her shoulder. Her gaze fell on Meng Shi's face. Tang Guo, you're too much. Before Tang Guo could speak, Meng Shi spoke first. No matter what, Uncle Tang is your father. You, a father who had sex with another man when my mother was pregnant. A father who came home after midnight every day. A father who never accompanied my mother for her prenatal checkup. A father who didn't even speak to my mother for a year. Or a father who didn't care about my existence at all. Tang Guo's continuous questions made Meng Shi a little confused. Although he couldn't answer these questions, he still felt that Tang Tailin and Wen Lang were a little miserable. After all, some things were in the past. Actually, Uncle Tang was forced to do it. He was pressured, so he had no choice but to. Will he die if he doesn't get married? Tangua asked. If he doesn't get married and doesn't lie about getting married, will he die? He just couldn't bear the pressure and compromised. Uncle Tang has some difficulties. Back then, Grandma Jiang threatened to kill herself, so... Meng Shi said weakly. She found that Tang's expression was cold and sarcastic. She had never seen such a side of Tangguo before. He was afraid that his mother would jump to her death, so he wanted to trick an innocent woman. Is that what you mean? Tangguo asked with a smile. Was there something wrong with this person's brain? What difficulties? In this world, taking the initiative to harm innocent people, all difficulties were bullshit. Tang Tailin was innocent, but so were the others. If you're so capable, you can also threaten him with death. Tangguo turned around and glanced at Tang Tailin, who was lying on the ground in a sorry state. Why didn't you? Alright, let's not interact with each other in the future. I'm afraid that I won't be able to resist splashing water on you every time I see you. Tangguo saw that Meng Shi wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, she said, human sorrow and joy are indeed not connected. You haven't experienced such things, so you'll never understand the anger in my heart. You also won't know how disgusting your actions are. The Apex. Chapter 46:11. System. The main point is that the host is paving the way for what will happen in the future. After some things happen in the future, Meng Shi should recall this sentence and finally understand why. At this moment, the driver's voice came from outside. Mississippi. The driver glanced at the scene inside. There was some shock in his eyes, but he still said, Miss, do you want to go home? Tangguo, yes. Everyone here better not appear in front of me or talk to me in the future. Tangguo looked at Meng Shi. Especially you. Meng Shi was shocked and took a few steps back. Wen Ran quickly protected her. Meng Shi doesn't know. What a good don't know. Tangguo walked outside. Now you know. Wen Ran subconsciously replied, I'll keep an eye on Meng Shi. She won't disturb you again in the future. Meng Shi was a little surprised by Wen Ran's words. She didn't understand why he would speak up for Tangguo at this time. Wen Ran. After Tangguo left, Meng Shi raised her voice. Why didn't you stop her just now? After Meng Shi asked, she didn't wait for Wen Ran to answer. She quickly went to help Wen Lang and Tang Tailin and asked how they were doing. Anyway, she felt that although the two of them had made mistakes, many things were in the past. The matter between Tang Tailin and Yang Yuxuan was a grudge between the previous generation. No matter what, Tang Guo was Tang Tailin's daughter. They were biological father and daughter. It was a little inappropriate for her to push Tang Tailin and pour a drink on his head. Meng Shi felt a little helpless when she thought of Tangguo's harsh words, telling everyone here not to appear in front of her. Wen Ran didn't say anything. He silently went over to help Wen Lang up. He carefully observed Wen Lang and Tang Tailin's expressions. There was resentment, and there was also a bit of anger from being exposed. This made his heart sink. What Tangguo said should be true. In fact, when Tangguo said it, he believed it. As the saying goes, no one knows a son better than his father. He knew what kind of person his father was. As for Tang Tailin, he didn't know much about him. However, she shouldn't be lying because when she said those words, the two of them didn't refute her except for anger and shame. If he didn't refute, it was more or less a tacit agreement. If what she said was true, then he really didn't feel that Tangguo's actions were strange at all. What do you guys plan to do? In the bathroom, Wen Ran asked Wen Lang, after what happened today, can you still be together with him? Wen Lang was also angry. He didn't expect that Tang Guo would do such a thing. It wasn't easy for us to get to where we are today. It wasn't easy for your Uncle Tang to promise me. Today, it was ruined by that girl. Is what she said true? Wen Lang didn't answer. Instead, he said, you don't have to worry about this. I'll handle it. Then it must be true. Wen Ran felt a little complicated. He actually didn't like this kind of behavior. However, he didn't say anything. He didn't have the strength to interfere with Wen Lang's matters. Comfort Xiao Shi well. She is a kind girl. Wen Ran, I know. He knew that Meng Shi's character was relatively simple, so he really didn't have bad intentions in doing these things. Today's events had probably frightened her. Because of what Tang Guo did, the matter of Tang Tailin and Wen Lang getting back together was put on hold again. This time, Wen Lang was really angry. He planned to go back and start investigating Yang Yuxuan's company. He had to make her pay the price. Peak. Chapter 46:12. Missy, what happened just now? The driver had been driving Tang Guo for more than 10 years, but this was the first time he had seen Tang Guo so angry. He was a little worried. I beat up two shameless people. Tang Guo regained her smile. It's nothing. They're no match for me. The driver knew that Tang Guo had learned martial arts before. After all, a Missy had to learn a little bit of everything. He just didn't expect her to be so powerful. Tang Guo learned those miscellaneous things so that she could have a source for her skills. Everyone knew that she was smart, so they wouldn't have any doubts. The driver didn't ask any more questions and drove home seriously. Tang Guo returned home and waited for Yang Yuxuan to come back. She told Yang Yuxuan what had happened today. After hearing it, Yang Yuxuan couldn't hold back her expression. Those two men are really shameless. Tang Tailin actually dared to ask for your blessing. The reason why Yang Yuxuan didn't make a fuss about Tang Tailin's video was mainly because of her two daughters. If it were to be made known, her two daughters would be looked down upon. It wasn't because she wanted to let Tang Tailin go. Guogua, what's wrong with your classmate Meng Shi? How did she manage to deceive you? Listen to me. It's better not to interact with such a friend in the future. Am I that stupid in your eyes? Tang Guo said with a smile. I've never brought her back. She has already violated my taboo, so I don't plan to bring her back. If you want to bring her back, bring Zhang Xingyue, who has old cured meat at home. Her old cured meat is very delicious. I've let you try it before. When Yang Ji heard about old cured meat, she was immediately attracted. She ran over and asked, Sister, did Sister Zhang give you old cured meat again? Not yet. She should give it to me at the end of the semester. I've been tutoring her recently, so her grades have improved a lot. Tang Guo replied casually. She should be too embarrassed to not give it to me. Yang Yuxuan was stunned. Then, she smiled. That was right. Her daughter was much smarter and more decisive than her. Back then, her daughter had guided her out of the haze step by step. That was why she had the life she had now. Guogua has always been so powerful. Mom even said that she would protect you. Mom, you should pay more attention to the company these days. Wen Lang is a ruthless person. Today, I exposed their scandal in public and poured 2 bottles of drinks on them. He must be very angry. Tang Tailin probably didn't have much hope for me either. Wen Lang won't dare to do anything on the surface, but he'll definitely deal with your company in secret. Yang Yuxuan became serious. Okay, I'll prepare it. She also wanted to compete with the Wen Corporation. Tang Guo thought of Zhang Qin, who worked under Yang Yuxuan. Xing Chen didn't leave Tang Tailin's restaurant because Tang Tailin didn't want Wen Lang to misunderstand, so he fired her directly. Xing Chen had already completed her mission and had agreed to travel the world with Yuan in the future. The two paper people also knew that if they wanted to have fun traveling around the world, they would need a lot of money. Under Tang Guo's suggestion, Xing Chen started working with Yang Yuxuan when she started her business. She had always been Yang Yuxuan's right-hand woman. With Xing Chen's help, Yang Yuxuan would destroy the Wen Corporation sooner or later. Tang Guo didn't worry about it. In the evening, Tang Guo's mobile phone rang. It was Meng Shi's number. She directly pulled out the phone card and planned to change a new one when she was free. Meng Shi called again and heard that the phone was turned off. He was a little discouraged. The next day, when Tang Guo arrived at the school, Meng Shi had already been waiting at the school gate. Seeing Tang Guo appear, he waved his hand to call Tang Guo. Tang Guo frowned and walked quickly into the school gate. She heard Meng Shi's noisy voice. Along the way, they attracted many people's attention. Tang Guo and Meng Shi were both influential people on campus. Seeing that Meng Shi was anxious and Tang Guo was indifferent, many people were guessing what was going on. The top. Chapter 46:13. In less than half a day, many people were discussing this matter. As soon as class ended, Meng Shi leaned in front of Tang Guo. Zhang Xingyue already knew the whole story of Tang Guo and Meng Shi's falling out last night. Seeing that Meng Shi was unwilling to give up and tried to explain herself, she was a little impatient. She pulled Meng Shi and said, "You'll affect Tang Guo's studies." Meng Shi pursed her lips. "I really didn't do it on purpose. I won't do such a thing in the future." "Then what do you want?" Zhang Xingyue asked. "To return to the past. Tang Guo has tolerated you for a long time. You're the reason why things have come to this point. If you continue to pester her for no reason, she has many ways to make you unable to see her." Tang Guo didn't have so much patience now. She had played her role and didn't need to maintain a good relationship with Meng Shi. Tang Guo patted Meng Shi, which made Meng Shi happy. However, before she could finish being happy, she heard Tang Guo whispering in her ear, "Do you want to see the short videos they made when my mother was pregnant? There are many of them without clothes. Aren't you interested in these? This time, it's a real-life version." After saying that, Tang Guo even revealed a mischievous smile. Seeing Meng Shi's stunned and incredulous gaze, she felt comfortable. Zhang Xingyue was also a little stunned. She always felt that the gloating and somewhat evil Tang Guo was the real Tang Guo. She hurriedly shook her head. Was she under too much pressure from studying recently? "Why don't I not do the exercises this afternoon and read some ancient poems to relax?" Meng Shi didn't talk to Tang Guo anymore, but Tang Guo asked the system to send a folder to Wen Ran. In the next few days, every time Meng Shi wanted to look for Tang Guo, she was stopped by Wen Ran. Because of this, the two of them even quarreled. However, they were the male and female leads after all. Their relationship was deeper and they didn't fall out. Perhaps it was because of the falling out with Tang Guo, many girls distanced themselves from Meng Shi. As for those girls who didn't like Meng Shi, they were even happier when they bullied her. In the past, they had to give face to Tang Guo. Right now, there was only Wen Ran. Whatever they did, Wen Ran really couldn't care less. Many times, when Tang Guo passed by, she didn't even look at Meng Shi who was being bullied. Seeing this, the girls finally understood that Tang Guo really didn't care about Meng Shi. Seeing Tang Guo's indifference, Meng Shi finally stopped approaching Tang Guo. On the weekend, Xia Fan, who was studying at a university somewhere far away, flew back in a hurry and went straight to Tang Guo's house. He rushed to her door and knocked. Early in the morning, he didn't wake up Tang Guo, but Yang Ji, who was reading next door, woke up. Young Ji saw Xia Fan and said, "Brother Xia Fan, did you just get off the plane?" "Yes." Xia Fan stared at the door of Tang Guo's room. He did not move at all, as if he wanted to stare a flower out of the door. He took out his phone and saw that it was only 8 o'clock. He slapped his head in frustration. "It's only 8 o'clock. Yes, come back at 10 o'clock. Fortunately, you didn't wake my sister up. It's not easy for her to sleep in on the weekend." Young Ji's tone was unfriendly. "Why don't you go downstairs and wait? What do you want to eat? Ask someone to make it. We all know each other, so I won't bother you." "Okay." Xia Fan didn't mind. Tang Guo was the boss here. He had long been used to it. He turned around and went downstairs and asked for a glass of milk. Young Ji glanced downstairs and went back to her room to read. Her mother had arranged many classes for her recently. They were all business cases written by Uncle Zheng Qin. She had to read them all. She looked at Tang Guo's room enviously. As expected, she wasn't smart enough. That was why she had to study from morning to night, unlike her extremely smart sister who could learn anything at a glance and sleep in as much as she wanted. Mortals really couldn't compare to geniuses. The Peak. Chapter 46:14. At 10 o'clock, Tang Guo woke up. The system told her that Xia Fan had arrived and had been waiting for 2 hours. She changed her clothes and went downstairs. She found Xia Fan sitting on the sofa, looking very serious, like an old monk in meditation. "You're awake." Xia Fan hurriedly ran to her. His second question was, "Why didn't you tell me that you changed your phone number?" Tang Guo was a little sleepy. She rubbed her eyes and thought about what he said just now. Maybe she felt that she had almost done everything and could relax, so she relaxed and forgot about it. It was also because they usually used social media to communicate that Xia Fan didn't notice in time. Still not awake. Xia Fan took the hot towel from the helper and gently covered her eyes. Tang Guo came back to her senses. "I forgot." Xia Fan pursed his lips. "Forgot." She dismissed him with just these 2 words. "System, I feel wronged, but I won't say it." "Ha ha ha. I didn't tell the others either." Tang Guo added. She had indeed forgotten about it. Anyway, she didn't usually call, and they usually chatted on social media. Xia Fan's wronged eyes retracted. She didn't tell him. "Oh, that's okay. Let's have breakfast first." Xia Fan naturally grabbed Tang Guo's hand and led her down. This was a completely instinctive action. After being trained by his mother when he was young, he was used to it. As long as Tang Guo was anywhere, he would want to hold her hand. "System, young man, are you sure you're used to it after being trained by your mother?" Tang Guo chewed on the bread and told Xia Fan what happened that day. Xia Fan frowned and listened to the whole story. In the end, he added, "Why didn't you bring them along? I can do it alone." Tang Guo said, "They're no match for me even if they work together." Xia Fan was silent. He had fought with Tang Guo before. Back then, he went to the martial arts class first, and Tang Guo went later. At that time, they were still young. He thought that except for height, there was at least one thing that he was better than Tang Guo in and could teach her how to be a good person. He didn't expect that he would be the one who was beaten up every time. Although it was not so miserable later and they often tied, he knew that she had been merciful to him among the students in the class. Therefore, he thought that his role was really to push the swing, get food, carry the bag and snacks. System, ha ha ha, it's really miserable. I heard from my father that the One Corporation has been taking action recently. They are snatching projects from Aunt Yang's company. Xia Fan changed the topic. My dad will take care of Aunt Yang. There won't be any problems. You don't have to worry. Tang Gua nodded. Yes, with Uncle Xia's help, there won't be any problems. The corners of Xia Fan's lips curled up unknowingly. He still had some use. He had a very powerful father. There's still more than a year before the college entrance examination, Xia Fan said helplessly. Do you want to take the exam in advance? He thought it was completely possible, but Tang Gua didn't agree before, saying that she still had things to do. Aces because he had a intuitions SSSS really. Xia Fan was still a little surprised. Then I'll tutor you. Do you think it's necessary? Tang Gua asked. Xia Fan said, don't you? He was a little disappointed and changed the topic. I have prepared a lot of materials. If she didn't need them, they would be useless. Tang Gua saw Xia Fan's disappointment and patted him on the shoulder. That's good. I don't have to organize them myself. You've helped me a lot. She would be more lovely if she was praised properly. Sure enough, the disappointment in Xia Fan's eyes disappeared and turned to joy. I'll send them to you right away. He took out his mobile phone and sent the materials to Tang Gua. Let's go and play later. Tang Gua said. Xia Fan said casually, okay, where to play? In the park, playing on the swing. Xia Fan, okay. This hobby had not changed for more than 10 years. What was comforting was that the person who pushed the swing had not changed either. When they arrived at the park, Tang Gua sat for a while and stood up. She asked Xia Fan, do you want to sit down? Let me push you. Xia Fan's expression was distorted. It was a little inappropriate for a man to play on the swing. I saw it when I was a child. You were envious when you saw me playing on the swing. Tang Gua pressed Xia Fan on the swing. I reflected on myself. I can't be so selfish. Brother Xia Fan, let me push you. Xia Fan wanted to refuse, but he didn't dare to. He had never been envious. He was willing to push the swing. It was very good. He didn't think it was a bad misunderstanding. System, it's so funny. The top. Chapter 46:15. Have you really made up your mind? Zhang Xingyue was not surprised when she heard that Tang Guo wanted to take the college entrance exam in advance. She thought that with Tang Guo's current knowledge and intelligence, it was normal for her to take the college entrance exam in advance. Tang Guo's sudden decision caught her off guard and made her a little reluctant. She was not worried that Tang Guo would fail the exam at all. Even the teachers would take the initiative to discuss with Tang Guo when they encountered some controversial questions. It was enough to prove that she was very good. I've decided. In this school, the only one that Tang Guo was really reluctant to part with was Zhang Xingyue. Speaking of which, Zhang Xingyue was not very smart in class. Her IQ was only average. Zhang Xingyue was able to stay at the top of the list. In addition to her helping others with questions and skills, Zhang Xingyue was also a very hardworking person. If I pass the college entrance exam this time, you can send me any questions you have in the future. I'll reply to you when I'm free. I think I'll have more time in university and won't be as busy as in high school. It'll be easy for me to solve 2 questions. Zhang Xingyue was a little embarrassed, but she could not refuse because this was a great temptation to her. With her own ability, she could at most stay in the top 10 of the grade. With Tang Guo's help, she could now stay in second place. Speaking of which, if Tang Guo left, would she be able to stay in first place in the grade? Just as she was thinking about this, Tang Guo said, no matter what, I'm leaving. You have to stay in first place in the grade, right? Zhang Xingyue instantly felt a heavy burden on her body. She looked at Tangguo's expectant expression and nodded seriously. Okay, I'll work hard. Did you suddenly make this decision because of Meng Shi? Zhang Xingyue hesitated for a moment and asked softly. Tangguo nodded and then shook her head. Not entirely. It's only a small part of it. Brother Xia Fan has already mentioned to me several times that I should take the college entrance exam in advance. This time, he mentioned it again, so I might as well take the exam. There's no problem on your side. There's still more than a year. We'll see each other soon. Zhang Xingyue understood that Tangguo didn't leave not only because of Meng Shi, but also because of her. This made her feel warm in her heart. We will meet again in a year's time. Zhang Xingyue decided that she had to secure the first place. Although Tangguo had decided to take the college entrance examination, she didn't go to her senior year class. Instead, she stayed in her original class. She had already told Yang Yuxuan and Yang Ji about bringing forward the college entrance examination, and both of them were very supportive. Yang Yuxuan felt that her daughter was good in every way. She supported her in everything she did. Yang Ji felt that since her sister was so smart, she would definitely be able to get first place, even if she had only been in high school for less than 2 years. Sure enough, this was her genius sister. Tangguo had told the teacher about the college entrance examination. She did not say that she wanted to take the college entrance examination earlier. Instead, she said that she wanted to take the college entrance examination and see what level she could reach with her current level. For a student with excellent grades like Tangguo, the teacher was very willing to make things easier for her. Naturally, there were rumors that Tangguo wanted to take part in this year's college entrance examination to prove her ability. The students in the class were also very much looking forward to Tangguo's results. In the past few years, she wasn't close to her classmates, but she wasn't unfamiliar with them either. This was because she was very willing to share her learning experience with everyone. It should be said that she was very popular with the top students. The Summit. Chapter 46-16. In June, on the day Tangguo took the college entrance examination, the top students who knew her came to the examination hall to send her off. When Tangguo went in, everyone comforted her that it was just a test and that she shouldn't be nervous. In fact, Tangguo wasn't nervous, but these top students were. Because of this, Xia Fan also came and waited outside with the others. Seeing that everyone was comforting Tangguo, Xia Fan stood at the side with a straight face. When the results were out, these people would know how amazing she was. After Tangguo came out, the top students served her water and didn't ask her about her condition at all. They were all very obedient. 2 days later, the top students resumed their classes, but they were all looking forward to Tangguo's results. Meng Shi had always been paying attention to Tangguo's movements and knew that she was going to take the college entrance examination. Without Tangguo's care, many people who couldn't stand Meng Shi were not these top students, but other people in the school. They often found trouble with Meng Shi. There were several times when Tangguo didn't care about these things, which made Meng Shi feel a little disappointed. Gradually, she distanced herself from Tangguo. Now, even if Tangguo didn't avoid her, Meng Shi would take the initiative to avoid Tangguo. Everyone in the school knew that the two of them had fallen out. Many people were curious about why the two of them fell out. Some people even asked Zhang Xingyue about it, but Zhang Xingyue didn't know anything. They decided to investigate it secretly themselves. In fact, Tangguo's teacher really didn't care about Tangguo's college entrance examination this time. Although he predicted that her score wouldn't be low, he didn't expect her to be the provincial top scorer. This result was beyond the teacher's expectations, but it was also a good result. It made Tangguo's teacher proud. Look, their student was only in her second year of high school, but she was already the top scorer. There were all kinds of praises and interviews that followed. In any case, those top students who were familiar with Tang Guo were convinced. She just went to take the test, but in the end, she was the top scorer. Wasn't it infuriating? Tang Guo finished high school early and ushered in her university life. Before leaving school, she sent a copy of the information that Xia Fan had prepared for her to Zhang Xingyue and told her to study hard. During the holidays, Zhang Xingyue sent a lot of bacon to Tang Guo from her hometown. With Zhang Xingyue's current grades, she had received quite a lot of scholarships from the school. The school had even waived her tuition fees. It was not a problem for her to buy some meat and let her grandmother make bacon. Her grandmother had said that Tang Guo was her great benefactor. They didn't have anything to give her except for the slightly rare cured meat. After Tang Guo went to college, Zhang Xingyue settled down to study. On the other hand, Meng Shi had all kinds of troubles. It was not known when someone said that the reason why Tang Guo took the college entrance examination in advance had something to do with Meng Shi. Those people also knew about Tang Guo, Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin's family affairs. This was not a secret, and he could easily find out after a little investigation. Those who knew about this matter looked at Meng Shi strangely. How can she be so shameless? No wonder Tang Guo would rather take the college entrance examination early than stay in school. If I had such a disgusting friend, I wouldn't want to stay here either. If my situation was the same as Tang Guo's, and I was set up by my good friend to reconcile with my scumbag father and my scumbag grandmother, I would be disgusted to death, okay? What's more terrifying is that Meng Shi actually set up her scumbag father to be gay, and the partner is the one who cheated on her. There must be something wrong with her brain. As for the other man, they knew who he was. Tang Tailin and Wen Lang's relationship was not a secret. The Summit. Chapter 46-17. Wen's company still had rivals. Besides, Wen Lang was not the only shareholder of this school. There were other shareholders. Since Wen Lang planned to rob Yang Yuxuan's project, Wen's company and Yang's company had been competing with each other. The person who released the news was probably Wen Lang's rival. Because of Wen's company, Wen Ran had less time to attend classes recently. The important courses were in the first and second year of high school. Wen Ran had a good foundation. He could review more before the college entrance examination to get a good grade. He was now busy helping Wen Lang take care of Wen's company. Wen's company was facing the biggest crisis. It should be said that there were internal and external troubles. Internally, there were shareholders, executives and employees who were ready to make trouble. Externally, it was Wen Lang who provoked Yang Yuxuan. I didn't expect Yang's company to grow so fast. Wen Lang couldn't help but feel annoyed when he was defeated again. Yang Yuxuan had robbed him of several important projects recently. If they were robbed by her again, Wen's company might shrink greatly. If the capital chain couldn't keep up, he could only give up some things. Wen Ran had just learned to manage the company and couldn't deal with these problems for the time being. Looking at Wen Lang's sad face, he didn't know what to do. They didn't know that there were many rumors about them in the school now. And Meng Shi was being ridiculed and excluded. It was An Yuan who received the news and told Wen Ran about it. Wen Ran didn't have time at this time, so he could only ask An Yuan to help. Wen Lang had offended many people. In the 2 years when he fought with Yang Yuxuan, Wen's company shrank greatly and reduced almost half of its scale. If Wen's company didn't have a foundation and couldn't be destroyed in a short time, Yang Yuxuan might not stop. She felt that it was enough for now. She could let Yang's company digest it first and then deal with Wen's company when it was strong. She was finally able to vent the anger that had been bottled up in her heart. In the college entrance examination of the second year, Wen Ran's score was not the best. In order to study in Wen's company, he applied for a school in the city. Because of various things, Meng Shi's score dropped a lot. He also applied for a school in the city. Even if she could apply for other schools, she couldn't be separated from Wen Ran. The top scorer of this year was Zhang Xingyue. She kept the first place that Tang Guo moved out. On the day of her exam, Tang Guo even came back to visit her. Of course, Tang Guo also met Meng Shi. Meng Shi suddenly wanted to say something, but was ignored by Tang Guo. When Meng Shi heard the ridicule of the people around him, he became angry from embarrassment and decided not to talk to Tang Guo anymore. Jiang Juxiang asked Meng Shi many times why Tang Guo didn't go to a restaurant for dinner. Meng Shi didn't know what to say. Tang Tailin was annoyed by the questions. He had a big fight with Jiang Juxiang and moved from his home to a hotel. Later, Jiang Juxiang came to the school gate and squatted by Zhang Xingyue. She pulled Zhang Xingyue with tears and snot, wanting to see Tang Guo. Seeing this, Zhang Xingyue told him everything that had happened before. Jiang Juxiang let go of Zhang Xingyue's hand and turned to leave. She didn't disturb Meng Shi and Zhang Xingyue anymore. Tang Guo later heard from the system that Jiang Juxiang went to a restaurant to find Tang Tailin and slapped him. Tang Tailin didn't fight back and let Jiang Juxiang scold him. From childhood to adulthood, Jiang Juxiang scolded Tang Tailin for being insensible and disobedient at most. It was the first time that she scolded him for being shameless. Tang Tailin was indifferent. After Jiang Juxiang finished scolding him, Tang Tailin said, "Mom, you scolded me for being insensible, for being shameless, and for driving your granddaughter away. But are you really not wrong at all?" The top. Chapter 46:18. If you hadn't threatened me to go on a blind date by jumping off a building, would I have gotten married? If I hadn't gotten married, would I be here today? I told you before that I have someone I like. It's a man. You thought I was sick and insisted on getting married. You know that I don't like women and I don't want to have children with them. If I hadn't promised you, none of this would have happened. Jiang Juxiang was scolded with tears in her eyes, but she couldn't say a word. She didn't know whether she thought she was wrong or she thought she was good for Tang Tailin. Now you don't have a grandson, and your granddaughter doesn't recognize you or me. I can't be with the person I like. Are you satisfied? After a long time, Jiang Juxiang said, "You have grown up. I can't control you. You have different ideas. I can't control you." Tang Tailin watched Jiang Juxiang leave. The next day, he received a call from his sister. "Brother, why did Mom come to my place? You know there are so many people here. It's not enough to live here." Mom cried as soon as she came here. "People who didn't know would think I did something wrong. I don't know who made her angry. Brother, I'm very busy. Can you take Mom back when you are free?" Before Tang Tailin answered, Jiang Juxiang's voice sounded. She said she would stay for a while and leave in the afternoon. Tang Tailin couldn't bear it. He went to take Jiang Juxiang back. A few days later, Jiang Juxiang went back to the countryside. She left Tang Tailin with the words that she would leave him alone in the future. Tang Tailin should be happy to get this answer. But he didn't know why he couldn't be happy. Wen Lang hadn't come to him for a long time. He heard that Wen Lang's company was in trouble. After the last incident, Wen Lang said angrily that it wasn't over. He wanted to teach Yang Yuxuan a lesson. At that time, he knew that Yang Yuxuan had opened a company and became the boss. It was not worse than Wen's company. At that time, he was also a little angry. He hoped that Wen Lang could teach Yang Yuxuan a lesson. Tang Guo was so ignorant. It must be Yang Yuxuan who taught her. Now it had been a long time. Wen Lang didn't get any result. Even the call between them became less and less. It was like every time they separated, they automatically stopped contacting each other. Tang Tailin suddenly felt that at this point, he should take the initiative to see how Wen Lang was doing. This was the first time he had gone to Wen Lang's company to meet him after graduating from university. It was a very big and unfamiliar place. Tang Tailin had been looking forward to it, but when he saw Wen Lang walk out with a woman, it was as if he had been struck by lightning. He didn't know what to say. He wanted to turn around and leave, but he couldn't move his feet. He saw Wen Lang politely saying something to the woman and walking towards him. "Miss Chen and I are partners." Wen Lang took the initiative to speak. "We might get married, just married. Nothing else will happen." Wen Lang observed Tang Tailin. "I've told Miss Chen about you. She knows and won't mind." Tang Tailin was silent, but he minded it a lot. The Yang family cannot be underestimated. "I have suffered many losses in the hands of your ex-wife. I have underestimated her." Tang Tailin became even more silent. Was Yang Yuxuan that powerful? So, was he and his mother in the wrong? He had deceived a person who should have been shining brightly. "Our partnership will be dissolved in the future. Tailin, I'll have to trouble you during this period." Tang Tailin finally asked, "How long?" "I don't know," Wen Lang replied. "Maybe on the day we defeat the Yang family." "What if we can't defeat them?" The Peak. Chapter 46:19. Tang Tailin didn't get an answer that day about the marriage between Wen Lang and Miss Chen, so he left alone. Along the way, he thought a lot and recalled the past. He suddenly felt that he and Wen Lang were like ordinary men and women. Their relationship was not as strong as he imagined. From the beginning, it was not their families that separated them, but what they didn't want to give up. He didn't have so much courage to face a different world. In other words, he knew that Wen Lang couldn't give up the things in his hands. He also wanted to find some excuses to end it, but he didn't want to. And Wen Lang couldn't give up the wealth and power in his hands. Tang Tailin ignored Wen Lang. Wen Lang felt that Tang Tailin was serious, so he was a little angry. After being angry, he flew into a rage out of shame. He destroyed Tang Tailin's restaurant, but he didn't expect that Tang Tailin went back to the countryside. Wen Lang was not reconciled. He locked Tang Tailin in his private villa and had a sadistic love in his middle age. Tang Gua had been paying attention to what happened there. She kindly helped to call the police. Wen Lang was arrested for imprisoning other people's personal freedom. And Miss Chen took advantage of this time and the previous preparation to crazily divide the resources of Wen's company. She used cooperation projects to empty Wen's company. When Wen Lang realized it, Wen's company was in danger. At this time, he knew that he was cheated. However, what he got was a divorce agreement. Later, he found that Miss Chen was the distant cousin of his ex-wife, Su Yi. She not only had a relationship with Su Yi, but also knew Yang Yuxuan. At this time, how could Wen Lang not understand that he had been schemed against by the three women? Wen's company went bankrupt. It was unexpected, but also expected. Tang Tailin went back to the countryside and Wen Lang didn't come to him again. Tang Gua spent her 4 years in college listening to Wen's affairs. Since Tang Tailin went back to the countryside, she didn't pay much attention to it. Until Yang Yuxuan told her something, she was still a little surprised. Sick. Tang Guo was a little surprised. Tang Tailin in the plot was healthy all his life and didn't have any strange diseases. What disease? That disease. Yang Yuxuan shook her head. The dirty disease, AIDS. Speaking of this, she was a little scared. Tang Guo understood. He slept with other women outside. When Yang Yuxuan heard this, she didn't know what to say. However, she shook her head. It shouldn't be him. I know him. He's a bit aloof and noble. He only has warmth in his heart. Was it infected by Wen Lang? Yes. Yang Yuxuan nodded. During that period of time, the two of them were in conflict. Wen Lang found a few substitutes and it was very messy. I think he got it at that time. Later on, Wen Lang and Tang Tailin met a few times. Even Wen Lang. Yes. Yang Yuxuan was also in disbelief. Tang Tailin is unlucky. Mom, do you pity him? Tang Gui didn't care. She remembered very clearly that Tang Tailin didn't sympathize with Yang Yuxuan's experience in the plot. He didn't even pity her. Now that he was infected by Wen Lang, he deserved it. What kind of person was Wen Lang? Tang Tailin had known him for so long, how could he not know? If Jiang Juxiang hadn't stopped them back then, she really didn't think that the two of them would have really gotten together. Jiang Juxiang called me. She wants to see you and apologize to you, Yang Yuxuan said. It's fine if you don't want to. She even apologized to me. Tang Gui shook her head. There's no need to see her. Mom, if you didn't get a divorce back then, what would have happened to you and what would have happened to me? No matter how pitiful they are, it's their own fault. I know, Yang Yuxuan said. I don't plan to see her. When I think about the past, I feel suffocated. If I didn't get over it, I might not have been able to live after giving birth to Gigi. You two are motherless children and you're not liked. I don't know what kind of life you'll have. You'll definitely be bullied. Climax. Chapter 46:20. That's good. Alright, do you really think I'm a living Buddha who doesn't hold grudges? It's already good enough that I don't target them. It's also because of Wen Lang that he wanted to destroy my company. Otherwise, I wouldn't have thought of this. He's really offended a lot of people over the years. Tang Gui and Yang Yuxuan didn't plan to see Jiang Juxiang, regardless of whether she regretted it or not. As for Tang Tailin, they didn't have any thoughts about him. Why did he only think of them when he was sick? Just bear with it. Medical technology was advanced now, and the rest of his life was quite long. After Tang Gui graduated, she didn't plan to go out to work. She had a big family and a big business, and she also had a powerful sister. She wanted to be a salted fish and develop some hobbies. Yang Yuxuan said that it was nothing. She could still raise her daughter. Yang Ji also said that it was nothing. Things like working hard were left to her. Xia Fan couldn't do it. He was an only child, and he was dragged into the company to study as soon as he graduated. When Tang Guo was free, she would bring milk tea to the office to work with him. Xia Fan was a little resentful at first, but when he saw Tang Guo beside him, he suddenly calmed down. 2 people and 1 family. One of them had to work to support the family. The person who worked could only be him. System, host, what strange things did your cutie imagine? Why did he suddenly become hardworking? Tang Guo, this is what a mature man is like. When she was free, Tang Guo sent a message to En Yuan to ask about the situation. En Yuan, I'm accompanying Wen Ran to start his business. Meng Shi is always in trouble, and his family is bloodsucking. I feel that even if I don't interfere, they won't last long. Tang Guo, respond to her. I want to see if she's disgusting. En Yuan, boss, Wen Ran is actually very straightforward. Tang Guo, it doesn't matter whether he's straightforward or not. I just need Meng Shi to know that you covet Wen Ran. And Yuan understood. I plan to take advantage of this time to make more money so that I can travel around the world with Brother Xing in the future. Tang Gua, then you can do it. Xing Chen has saved up a lot of money. You can survive for at least 100 years. It's good to make more money. And Yuan, okay. After chatting with An Yuan, Tang Guo contacted Zhang Xingyue. Isn't she about to start her internship? She planned to trick him into working for the Yang Corporation. Zhang Xingyue was a down-to-earth and serious child. Coming to the Yang Corporation was the right choice. Tang Guo, come and give it a try. I'll provide you with an internship opportunity. Whether you can become a permanent employee or sign a contract directly in the future will depend on your personal ability. Zhang Xingyue, I really don't know what to say. Tang Guo, then work hard and sign a formal employment contract as soon as possible instead of being an intern. The next day, Zhang Xingyue came to the company for her internship. Because of Tang Guo's kindness, Zhang Xingyue had worked hard for the Yang Group all her life. Of course, the rewards she received were great. What are you eating? It was noon. Tang Guo stood up and glanced at Xia Fan, who was still reading the documents. There's a lot of documents. Why don't you read them in the afternoon? Xia Fan shook his head. I'm afraid I can't. These are rather urgent. I have to finish reading them this morning. Tang Guo put her phone aside and picked up a document to read. Then I'll eat after I finish reading it. Thank you for your hard work. Xia Fan looked a little embarrassed. It seemed that ever since he was young, his girlfriend had always been better than him. His girlfriend was good at everything, but she was a little lazy. Are you complaining that I'm lazy in your heart again? Tang Guo raised her eyebrows and glanced at Xia Fan. Xia Fan's face was stiff and serious. No. Tell me the truth. Okay, a little. I just want you to eat lunch on time. Tang Guo put the approved documents aside. How dare you say that I'm lazy? I'm spoiling you. I like it when you're lazy. Xia Fan quickly remedied and changed the topic. What are we eating later? 2 years later, Tang Guo received news from An Yuan that Meng Shi and Wen Ran were going to get married. The Peak. Chapter 46-21. Congratulations to you all. At this moment, An Yuan, Wen Ran, Meng Shi, and their mutual friends were all in a private room. Wen Ran had just successfully proposed to Meng Shi. The two of them had been stumbling for the past few years. In fact, Meng Shi did not expect that the obstacle between her and Wen Ran would be Wen Lang, the elder she once respected very much. After the Wen Corporation went bankrupt, Wen Lang wanted to make a comeback. However, he had offended too many people and was too ruthless. He did not leave a way out for others. No one was willing to see him get up again, and no one was willing to help Wen Lang. After a few times, Wen Lang lost more than half of his personal assets and did not make any progress. Just as he was unwilling to give up, he was diagnosed with an illness. When Meng Shi found out that Wen Lang had AIDS, she could not believe it. At first, she thought that it was an accident. Later, she found out from others that Wen Lang was sick because he went out to fool around. When he had a conflict with Tang Tailin, he had found many young men similar to Tang Tailin. At that time, Meng Shi's worldview was shattered. Later, she heard that Tang Tailin also had this disease and that Wen Ran had infected him. Ever since the Wen Corporation went bankrupt, the two of them had not seen each other again. Every time Meng Shi wanted to do something, she was stopped by Wen Ran. Seeing that he could not make a comeback, Wen Lang placed his hopes on Wen Ran. Wen Ran's ability was not bad. She might be able to achieve something if she took one step at a time. However, Wen Lang was used to living high and mighty. He wanted Wen Ran to reach the sky in one step and wanted to marry her. For this, Wen Lang even looked for Meng Shi and planned to give her some money to leave Wen Ran. Meng Shi did not agree. Wen Ran also rejected Wen Lang's approach and planned to take it one step at a time. Wen Lang was very angry when he was rejected by the two of them. As a father, he asked Wen Ran to submit. He even said that if Wen Ran did not agree, he could forget about using the resources in his hands. Then, Wen Ran really did not want a single cent from Wen Lang. She decided to find a company to work in first and take it one step at a time. Not only could Meng Shi not help Wen Ran, but she also had to deal with the blood-sucking family. Instead, she added a lot of trouble to Wen Ran. Wen Ran left the university and would only go back for exams. Meng Shi was still studying in school. And Yuan came out to work with Wen Ran, which touched Wen Lang. When he was in such a difficult situation, his good brother was still the most reliable. After Wen Ran accumulated a certain amount of resources and connections, she planned to go out on her own. And Yuan even invested all of his money in supporting Wen Ran's entrepreneurship, which made Wen Ran feel touched. By now, Wen Ran had already started his business for several years. The company's turnover had doubled several times, and Meng Shi had also graduated. The relationship between the two of them was not smooth sailing. Wen Ran was also a rising star in the business world. Naturally, there were many women who had ideas about him. Because of this, Meng Shi had been jealous several times. Wen Ran felt that now that his career was successful, he should give Meng Shi an answer. After all, Meng Shi had no intention of leaving him during his most difficult time. Thus, he had successfully proposed to Meng Shi today, and the next step was to prepare for the wedding. The words, "Congratulations," were said by An Yuan when Wen Ran was holding hands with Meng Shi after his successful proposal. An Yuan looked a little bitter, but he didn't want others to see it. After saying this, he turned around and went back to his seat. However, Wen Ran pressed down on his shoulder and hugged him tightly. She patted his back and said, "Good brother, it's all thanks to you that I am where I am today." Vertex. Chapter 46-22. When he was down and out, many people around him had left, but An Yuan never had the intention to leave. He even took out all his savings to support him. Jirai An Yuan maintained a faint smile. His boss said that Wen Ran could succeed, so he invested all his money in him. As long as Wen Ran worked hard, he would have endless money to travel the world in the future. "Why are you saying that?" And Yuan pushed Wen Ran away, looking a little embarrassed. "I have high hopes for you. You will definitely succeed." When Wen Ran heard this, he was even more touched. Back then, not many people had high hopes for him. Even Meng Shi did not expect him to succeed. And Yuan was indeed a good brother who grew up with him. The way An Yuan looked at Wen Ran was different. In fact, those who had been with Wen Ran for a long time could see something, but no one thought in that direction. They only thought that An Yuan's loneliness was because Wen Ran was going to start a family and could not go out with them in the future. On this day, An Yuan was drunk. The paper puppet could not be drunk. He was just pretending. "This is the first time I've seen brother and drunk," someone said. Wen Ran looked at An Yuan, who was slumped on the sofa, and instructed the others, "You guys keep an eye on him. We have to escort An Yuan home later. Don't let anything happen." "Don't worry, boss. We know even if you don't say it. Boss is about to get married, but brother An doesn't have a girlfriend yet. I wonder when brother An will find one. I remember that brother An has been fighting with boss since he was young. He has never had a girlfriend. I've asked about this before. Brother An doesn't seem to be interested in having a girlfriend. Maybe he doesn't like anyone. Brother An might be more career-oriented. Mengshi sat beside Wenran and listened to Wenran's good friends talk, but she could not join in. Even though her grades were not bad when she was in school, she finished university step by step. She did not have much in common with Wenran's friends who had been in the society for many years. When she heard these people talking about In Yuan, she looked in his direction and saw him leaning there with his eyes hazy and his cheeks slightly red. If Wenran was described as tough and handsome, then Enran was described as elegant and beautiful. For some reason, Mengshi had a very strange feeling. Wenran, I'm going to the bathroom, Mengshi whispered and got up. At this time, An Yuan sobered up a little. He stood up unsteadily and said that he needed to go to the washroom. No one thought anything was wrong. Wenran looked at him and called for someone. Who will accompany him? I'm afraid that this kid will fall into a pit. Are you getting married, or am I getting married? Why do you look even more excited than me? Wenran smiled and put her hand on someone's shoulder. She went to the bathroom without answering Wenran's question. The person he was holding was the one who knew a little about his thoughts. After Wenran went to the bathroom, he didn't return to the private room. Instead, he found a slightly hidden place and lit a cigarette to smoke. Seeing that he was silent, his friend stopped smiling and didn't disturb him. And Yuan had been paying attention to Mengshi's movements. When he heard the other party's familiar footsteps coming out, he suddenly said, Qin Liang, you go back first. I'll be alone for a while. Boss told me to keep an eye on you, in case you fall into a trap. Qin Liang smiled and said, if something happens to you, how am I going to explain it to boss? Vertex. Chapter 46-23. What can happen to such a big person? It's a little stuffy inside. I'll stay outside for a while. You go in and have fun with them. And Yuan's voice sounded a little sad. Mengshi thought it was a normal conversation and planned to pretend not to know. She was about to leave and return to the private room when Qin Liang's next sentence made her stop in her tracks. Big brotherin, are you really not going to tell boss? Tell him what? And Yuan felt that Qin Liang was very smart. As expected of the assistant he had carefully selected. He had only vaguely revealed his feelings for Wenran to Qin Liang. Now, he could really help him a lot. Big brotherin, you like boss, right? And Yuan really choked this time. This kid was really direct. He coughed a few times and paid attention to Mengshi's movements. After confirming that she hadn't left, he said in a slightly panicked voice, what nonsense are you talking about? Big brotherin, there's no one else here. Why can't I say it? Don't think I can't tell that you've liked boss for a long time. In the past, when you went to fight with boss, you were always the first to rush. If anyone touched boss, I guarantee that they wouldn't be able to get out of bed for half a month. Later on, when boss's family got into trouble, you didn't leave. You helped us think about it and let us follow boss. We definitely won't regret it in the future. Actually, many of us brothers might not have been able to accompany boss if it wasn't for you. When we started the business, you took out all your savings and contributed people and effort. You suffered more than anyone else and didn't leave any way out. You always remember everything about boss clearly. You're not careless. Even if boss's girlfriend is in trouble, you're willing to take the trouble to solve it. Big brotherin, there's no one else who has a crush on you. I really admire you. But, do you really plan to continue like this and watch boss get married? Actually, you had a chance in the beginning. Go away, what kind of chance is that? And Yuan pushed Qin Liang and panicked. Don't think too much. He's about to get married. Don't ruin it. At this point, and Yuan's voice changed. If he's even a little bit interested, do you think I'll let him go? You don't even tell me what you think. Do you know if boss likes you? Qin Liang was not satisfied. In his opinion, Brother N's only flaw was that he was a man. Otherwise, he and Boss would be a match made in heaven. Alright, don't mention this again. He's getting married. And Yuan said sadly. He didn't know what Meng Shi was thinking at this moment. As a secret admirer, how could he make the other party feel as if he had eaten a mouthful of shit? Qin Liang, are you sure? Actually, I feel that you're not ordinary in Boss's heart. Don't mention it. I'll get angry if you mention it again. Alright, let's not talk about it anymore. I just feel that it's a pity. Brother N and Boss are so compatible. In today's company, both you and Boss are indispensable. If the two of you work together, it's really a pity. That's good too, and Yuan said. Let's go. It's time to go back. I don't want them to really think that I fell into a trap. When Meng Shi heard this, he hurriedly walked back to the private room. His mind was buzzing. And Yuan actually had such feelings for Wen Ran. Recalling the days when Yuan and Wen Ran had gone through life and death together, Meng Shi suddenly felt that Yuan's existence was the biggest crisis in her relationship. If Yuan revealed something, would Wen Ran not be moved? Meng Shi hugged Wen Ran's arm. When she saw Yuan walk in drunkenly, Wen Ran, who was beside her, stood up subconsciously. She actually ignored her and stood up to receive Yuan. This made Meng Shi afraid. Peak. Chapter 46-24. In Wen Ran's heart, Yuan was more important than her. No, how could that be? However, when she saw Wen Ran smiling and patting Yuan's shoulder indulgently, Meng Shi stood up and grabbed Wen Ran's arm, indicating that she was not feeling well and wanted to go back. Then let's go home. Wen Ran hugged Meng Shi, which made her feel much better. However, Wen Ran's next sentence chilled her heart. And Yuan, when you get home later, remember to call to make sure you're safe. Also, go back and cook some hangover soup and have a good sleep. There's nothing much to do recently, so it's okay to go to the company later. Your health is more important. And Yuan, okay. Meng Shi only felt that her legs were cold. When she followed Wen Ran out, she looked back at Yuan and happened to see him looking at Wen Ran in a daze. She couldn't help but quicken her pace. Meng Shi only felt flustered and a little disgusted. Recently, Yuan had been helping Wen Ran prepare for the wedding. Because of what he said before, Meng Shi no longer found him pleasing to the eye. As long as it was something Yuan chose, she felt dissatisfied and wanted to choose again. When she thought about how Yuan had prepared the things for her wedding according to his preferences, she felt very uncomfortable. I don't like this color. And this restaurant, I don't like it either. This doesn't seem to be suitable. And Yuan was very patient. Then what do you like, sister-in-law? I'll choose again. Meng Shi felt uncomfortable in her heart, but she couldn't say it out loud. As long as it was something he chose, it was not suitable. Her expression was particularly ugly. Actually, I've shown these to Boss before, and he's quite satisfied. If you're not satisfied, you can discuss it with Boss again, and Yuan said patiently. Meng Shi felt even more uncomfortable. Later, Meng Shi told Wen Ran that she wanted to decorate the wedding herself and choose the things she needed. After all, it was a once-in-a-lifetime event. Wen Ran could tell that Meng Shi seemed to be a little dissatisfied with Yuan. Is there a problem with Yuan? You seem to be a little dissatisfied with him. Wen Ran asked directly because Yuan was his good brother. He didn't want any misunderstandings. Meng Shi quickly shook her head. No, I really want to choose it myself. Okay, I won't let Yuan do this. I was afraid that something would go wrong with you, so I troubled Yuan to help me. Wen Ran was actually a little dissatisfied. And Yuan was the person he trusted the most. Meng Shi's attitude made him feel a little sorry for Yuan. After this incident, Wen Ran apologized to Yuan again. And Yuan generously expressed that he didn't mind. Sister-in-law may be too nervous. He was becoming more and more like a green tea. If Brother Xing knew, he would definitely laugh at him. At Meng Shi and Wen Ran's wedding, and Yuan got drunk again. When Meng Shi saw Wen Ran instructing others to take care of Yuan, he felt as if he had been fed a mouthful of feces. When Yuan returned home, he immediately sent a message to Tanggua. Wen Ran, this brat, really treats me as a brother. He doesn't mean anything else, but Meng Shi is really miserable. Tanggua, isn't she rotten now? I thought she would be excited to know that someone liked her husband and wanted to play matchmaker. And Yuan, she feels like she's been fed a mouthful of shit. She's upset. Just wait and see, I don't have to do anything. I just need to cooperate with Wen Ran, and it will be enough for her to suffer. Tanggua, I'll prepare some gifts for her. And Yuan had a bad feeling in his heart. Boss, what gifts do you want to prepare? Tanggua, Wen Ran is also considered a rising star. Naturally, there should be both men and women suitors. If it's women, I won't arrange anything. I'll arrange more male suitors. Meng Shi can tolerate Tang Tailin cheating on Wen Lang in his marriage and matchmaking the two of them. He even has the cheek to ask me to give him my blessings. Then I'll send more suitors to her husband. And Yuan, Wen Ran, this brat, is very determined. Tanggua, I don't plan to let them succeed. I'm just arranging for some outstanding men to appear by Wen Ran's side. The so-called outstanding people will always attract more attention, right? And Yuan, alright, they're just an eyesore, right? And Yuan didn't expect Tanggua to act so quickly. At a cocktail party, Meng Shi also attended with Wen Ran. When Meng Shi returned from the washroom, he heard the boss from another city talking to Wen Ran. His face was full of admiration, but when he heard the other party's words, his face almost cracked. President Wen is young and promising. I didn't expect you to already have a wife. The handsome boss from another city looked regretful. What a pity. If I had come 1 or 2 years earlier, I might have had a chance. And Yuan, very good, boss. You'll arrange it as you wish. Peak. Chapter 46-25. Mr. Zhang, since you know that he already has a wife, why are you still talking about these meaningless things? Meng Shi really couldn't stand it anymore. She walked up and took Wen Ran's arm, showing a very possessive look. She didn't like the young and handsome Mr. Zhang and looked at him as if he was a mistress. Mr. Zhang was embarrassed, but he was a cultured person, so he couldn't lower his face to argue with a woman. I'm just sorry. I don't mean anything else. I'm really sorry for causing trouble to Mrs. Wen. After saying that, Mr. Zhang left. Meng Shi was still unwilling to give up. She said to Mr. Zhang's back, Mr. Zhang, you'd better be clear about the occasion when you say these words in the future. It's not good to always cause misunderstandings. I believe in Wen Ran, but others may misunderstand that Mr. Zhang is intervening in someone else's relationship. Meng Shi's words were very rude. Even if Wen Ran stopped her, she still finished what she wanted to say. Ever since she got engaged and got married, she hadn't had a good day. There was Yuan, who always coveted Wen Ran, and there were countless people outside who had designs on Wen Ran. Today, she was here. If she wasn't here, she didn't know what those people would do. Why were men so shameless nowadays? If they liked the same sex, they dared to openly express it at the cocktail party. How shameful. Meng Shi thought bitterly, but she didn't realize that she had completely lost control. CEO Zhang was really embarrassed. I'm sorry to have caused so much trouble to President Wen and Mrs. Wen. In order to avoid misunderstanding, we'd better wait and see about our cooperation. Mr. Zhang, please wait. Wen Ran broke free from Meng Shi and hurriedly chased after him. His business had just started and he really needed this young Mr. Zhang, who was a foreign investor. From the conversation just now, Mr. Zhang really expressed his regret in a very distant manner and didn't want to use cooperation as an excuse. In the business world, he had seen countless dirty people. Mr. Zhang was actually a good person. He was looking forward to their cooperation. He didn't expect Meng Shi to mind so much, but he didn't blame Meng Shi. Even if he heard someone say such things to Meng Shi, he would feel uncomfortable. If he hadn't experienced a series of changes and suffered a lot, when he heard someone say such things to Meng Shi, his reaction might be similar to Meng Shi's. He might even beat that person up and not care about the cooperation at all. However, he was no longer the fearless Wen Ran from his childhood. He shouldered a heavy responsibility. Only by supporting the family and making the company prosperous could he be worthy of his wife and his brothers. Losing Mr. Zhang's cooperation was a huge loss for the company. The cooperation with CEO Zhang this time is very important. CEO Zhang is a good person. He definitely doesn't have any ulterior motives. I'll come back and explain to you later. After saying that, Wen Ran chased after President Zhang. Meng Shi's eyes reddened. She felt that Wen Ran didn't care about her as much as before. She seemed to hear the people around her whispering. They were talking about her. Was she no longer liked by Wen Ran? As long as Wen Ran stopped liking her, wouldn't those people have a chance? Dream on. She's too jealous. She doesn't care about the occasion at all. President Wen's temper is really good. He's not even angry at all. If I had known that Wen Ran was so powerful, I wouldn't have listened to my mother. I thought that Wen Ran was useless and gave up pursuing him. Vertex. Chapter 46-26. A good man has to be started from a young age. Look at Meng Shi. Didn't she succeed in an instant? Meng Shi was with President Wen back then. How could President Wen not indulge her? As the saying goes, a loyal man like President Wen will definitely not mistreat a woman who has suffered with him. I regret it. I really regret it. Meng Shi did not know that these people were not mocking her, but envious. Sister-in-law, President Zhang didn't mean anything else. Don't take it to heart. And Yuan appeared beside Meng Shi at the right time and poured her a drink. President Zhang has a new project in his hands. If our company can get it, it will bring the company to a higher level. It's not that boss doesn't care about you, sister-in-law. Otherwise, if it were someone else, boss might be angry. If Meng Shi did not know that an Yuan liked Wen Ran, she would have been comforted by these words. Anyway, I think that saying those words to a married man is shameless, disgusting, and cheap, Meng Shi said bluntly. Especially those who clearly know that Wen Ran is married, but still think of Wen Ran in their hearts. Regardless of whether they are men or women, they are very shameless. When An Yuan heard this, how could he not understand that Meng Shi was scolding those who had a crush on Wen Ran, but she was also scolding him. His face stiffened at the right time, and Meng Shi happened to see it. Then, he returned to normal and did not say anything else. And Yuan, don't you think so? Isn't this kind of person cheap, shameless, and disgusting? Meng Shi saw that An Yuan did not speak, but she did not give up. Instead, she asked An Yuan to answer. An Yuan could not hold back his fake smile, but he still said, "Sister-in-law, are you tired? Do you want to go home first? I'll send you back." "No, you answer first." Just when An Yuan felt that it was very difficult, Wen Ran walked back. After his eloquent words, perhaps his sincerity and ability moved President Zhang. President Zhang was still willing to continue the cooperation, but the other party refused to meet Meng Shi. In addition, he showed that he definitely did not have any improper thoughts about him. It was indeed inappropriate for him to speak before. President Zhang's magnanimity made Wen Ran feel even more fortunate. Fortunately, he chased after him. Otherwise, he would have missed a very good partner. If it were someone else, not to mention cooperation, they might even make things difficult for him. What are you talking about? Wen Ran walked over and pulled Meng Shi. Cici, are you still angry? There's really nothing between me and CEO Zhang. Wen Ran also found that An Yuan's complexion was not very good. She asked with concern, Xiao Yuan, your complexion looks a little bad. Are you sick? Why don't you go back and rest first? Meng Shi was still thinking about President Zhang, but when he heard that Wen Ran was concerned about An Yuan, he almost exploded. She said in a strange tone, I'm asking An Yuan, are those people who clearly know that you're a married man but still have a crush on you and express their feelings for you cheap, disgusting, and shameless? Cici, that's other people's business. You should know that I don't care about these things at all. I'm already married to you. You're the only one in my heart. Wen Ran quickly comforted her, thinking that Meng Shi was still concerned about President Zhang's matter. An Yuan, why aren't you answering my question? Is this a difficult question? Today, Meng Shi insisted that An Yuan answer this question. He hoped that the other party would understand his position and not think of being a married man. An Yuan's expression became more and more unsightly, but he still forced himself to answer, sister-in-law is right. Wen Ran, on the other hand, was a little displeased. Although he liked Meng Shi and indulged her, he still felt very uncomfortable when he saw her unwilling to forgive him. Vertex. Chapter 46-27. Whether other people liked him or not was their business. No one could control other people's thoughts. However, Meng Shi transferred her anger to An Yuan. She felt very guilty towards An Yuan. This was a brother who had gone through life and death with him. Wen Ran couldn't help but say, Cici, don't make things difficult for Xiao Yuan. If you're unhappy, you can come at me. You're making things difficult for me. Meng Shi couldn't help it, especially when she saw Wen Ran protecting An Yuan. She felt that An Yuan was more important to Wen Ran than her. Boss, sister-in-law, you guys talk first. I really feel a little uncomfortable. I'm going out to get some fresh air. An Yuan expressed his attitude appropriately. Of course, he actually wanted to find a quiet place to report the news here to Tanggua. Wen Ran didn't want to embarrass Meng Shi in front of everyone. He planned to talk to Meng Shi after going back. An Yuan was a very important person to him. If it weren't for An Yuan, he wouldn't be where he was today. An Yuan, boss, Meng Shi can't stay calm anymore. She dissed President Zhang in public today and even made things difficult for me in front of Wen Ran. Tanggua, she can't hold it in anymore. My mom has been holding it in for 5 years. An Yuan smoked as he sent messages on his phone. He was very satisfied. Wen Ran is really capable. Boss, you gave him a resource for free. President Zhang actually cooperated with him. Tanggua, I don't mind at all. It's his ability to negotiate. Besides, isn't it more fun to distance him from Meng Shi? Maybe in the future, the Yang group can cooperate with Wen Ran. As long as we can make money, who does it matter who we cooperate with? An Yuan, you're right. Boss, you can see through everything. Wen Ran has some skills in managing the company. He's strict in all aspects. He just needs an opportunity. Tanggua, I can see how much you want to save money to travel. And Yuan, I feel like it's soon. When the matter blows up, I'll ask Wen Ran to leave the company and only take the shares. Then, I'll travel the world with Brother Zhang and go on adventures. As a human being, he had to do everything that a human being could do. Hearing footsteps, and Yuan hurriedly sent a message to Tang Gua, "Boss, I'll talk to you when I'm free. Someone is coming." Tang Gua stared at her phone and revealed a naughty smile. Xia Fan happened to see it, and he subconsciously looked at Tang Gua's phone screen. He was curious who was chatting so happily with her at this time. Judging from the name, it seemed to be a man. Instead of looking at the phone screen, he stared at Tang Gua's face. Although he had a straight face, Tang Gua could still see the grievance in his eyes. Tang Gua handed the phone to Xia Fan, which surprised him. He shook his head. "It shouldn't be anything ambiguous. I believe you. See? Aren't you curious?" Tang Gua smiled. "We're about to get married. Let me share a secret with you." Only then did Xia Fan pick up his phone and look at the chat history between Tang Gua and Yuan. And Yuan. Just now, he felt that the name in Yuan sounded familiar. Now, he finally remembered. Wasn't he Wen Ran's good brother? This in Yuan had followed Wen Ran all the way to the world and was Wen Ran's most trusted person. The more he looked at the chat history, the more shocked Xia Fan was. He looked at Tang Gua in disbelief. And Yuan was his fiancé's man. Wasn't he hiding it too well? If Wen Ran knows, she'll cry. Xia Fan handed the phone back. Tang Gua shook her head. Why would she cry? The purpose of Yuan's existence is to keep Wen Ran away from Mangxi. On the contrary, with his help, Wen Ran is steadily rising. Without Yuan's existence, no matter how capable Wen Ran is, she wouldn't be able to do it so smoothly. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.